What is good, everybody? We are back with day 2 of the Knights Carnage Cup number 4. My name is Melocrit, joined once again by Tenric, and day 2 is a big one for us with a huge lead from a couple of teams and some other teams that really struggled in day 1. Will they be able to make up that ground? Tenric, what are your thoughts?
$10,000 prize pool is at stake here, Mello, and only 3 teams are going to be able to get it, and these teams have been fighting tooth and nail. 6 games yesterday and 6 games today, a cumulative point total, so no match point necessary. Whoever wins the most points over these entire 12 games ends up taking the title, no more, no less than that. The rest of that comes all down to glory. But Mello, man, there is so much that went on both in front of and behind the scenes yesterday that has culminated into what we can go into today, and I think the scoreboard will better help us dictate that. Of course, the most consistent team has to be NRG, obviously, scoring 98 points in total after 2 wins in the end of the day. But beyond that, they placed really well and got solid KP every single other game outside of number 3. Some other notable names, of course, Esports Arena nabbing those first 2 wins of the day, Team Liquid grabbing a win themselves. Of course, one of the big talks of the town, Albraleli, Slurpee, and Snipe down on Team Ass, still somehow slowly but surely holding down that top 5, but by just 1 point, and so many stories beyond that as well that I'm sure we'll hopefully be able to get to over the course of today.
And we've gotten to experience a lot of the changes to the meta that are already evolving. We've been seeing them across a couple of tournaments since the start of the new season, but here we're seeing it on full display at the highest level of competition. Esports Arena, you already shouted them out, but we have to shout out the use of crypto from both them and Oxygen, a pick that I don't think we were really expecting. We saw Team Liquid mixing in the Mad Maggie and the Fuse. The Fuse also being used, I believe, by 100 Thieves during some of those games, as well as the Ash. So a lot of creative decisions, but at the end of the day, at least the end of day number 1, NRG looked like they were doing everything right. They were clearing out teams near the edge, which is a fantastic way to pick up a lot of those kill points that you need to get ahead. And of course, those W's don't hurt either. So I expect them to continue performing. But if we look down towards the end of the leaderboard, towards the bottom, there are a couple of teams that we know can score those big hitting games, that can get a lot of kills, that can get a lot of points and definitely win those games. But they are going to need quite a few of those in a row today if they are going to try and claim a piece of that $10,000 prize pool. Of course, 6 games starting on Storm Point to get today. We get 3, and then we get 3 games back on World's Edge. So of these teams, Tenric, there's a lot to talk about, of course, and a lot of behind the scenes discussions. Everyone has been very active, well, a little too active on Twitter since the results of yesterday's games. But obviously the big talk right now, or the talk of the town, is Furia, which I honestly kind of hate to see them this low because they're often a driving factor in the conversation, right? They're often one of those teams that's on top, that is in those end games having a big impact. But as of yesterday, we hardly saw them out of the drop.
And that was at the hands of G2 more than anything else, Mello. 4 out of the 5 times that G2 and Furia contested each other at their simultaneous drop spots, because you gotta remember, they went to the same POI on both maps. 4 out of those 5 times, G2 won and Furia placed either 20th, somewhere in between 20th and like 17th. They weren't able to get a single point in a majority of those games, which is why they're only sitting at 4. In fact, they haven't gotten a single placement point yet, and that's definitely tragic to watch. However, after today, it's clear that Furia needs to find a different threat to deal with and a different way to get around this game. And so Furia and G2 have hashed things out, negotiated. They will not be dropping at the same spot on either map this time around. So hopefully we'll see a lot more of Furia. I could absolutely say the same about G2 as well, as outside of them being able to contest Furia consistently, they also didn't really perform too well. Other contests that are going to change, I think that Ass and Tripods, the team with Nick Merckx and Gent and Deeds, they are no longer going to contest each other down in Synode over on Storm Point, I believe. So we may be able to see a little more of Tripods today after they had a pretty unfortunate performance on Storm Point, especially there. Elevate and Renegades, I'm not entirely sure about, because I feel like they may have been the most chronically online of all yesterday after those games. I'm interested to see if they shift how they start dropping, or if it's just going to be the wildest firefight at the very beginning of each and every game.
And we saw a lot of contesting on Stormpoint specifically. I think we were at 4 contests, if I'm not mistaken, or 3. So very hotly contested games, which meant that as we approached the mid-game pass ring 1 and 2, we actually had a lot more space for a lot of these teams to work with. A lot of teams got free priority on their rotations that they wouldn't have otherwise had because so many people were dying on the edge of the map. And of course, we did have some very heavy zone pulls on World's Edge to the northwest. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more variability there to see how teams are going to maneuver those rotations with the changed up drop spots and with the changed up attitudes, bringing in a lot of more firepower, hopefully, for day number 2, especially for those teams that are on the lower part of the leaderboard. Tripod's definitely one that we're going to be keeping an eye out because Nick Merckx and crew can definitely have big games and big impacts on each of those games if they can survive a little bit longer into the mid game. And of course, NRG is completely unafraid to fight any of those teams at any point in the game. They did a fantastic job of clearing out a lot of their rotations, being the last to the punch at the right moments near ring 5. So that is the kind of gameplay that's starting to get them a lot of value, a lot of points, and potentially the largest chunk of that $10,000 prize pool.
The big thing about day 2 is that, you have to ask about every single team really is what is going to change. And there are a lot of things that you have to ask about, said changes. There are a lot of things that could potentially change or that need to stay the same in order for these teams to keep their consistency going. Some things that come to mind immediately, Space Station Gaming currently sitting in 4th place. Although Nathan and Sweet are probably the highlight of yesterday, I think Dropped was one of the secret MVPs throughout that entire lobby. What a consistent defensive player, hopping on the Newcastle and the Gibraltar throughout those both maps. I'm wondering if he's going to stay on those champions or if he's going to go to something else to keep SSG kind of on a better move because they were camping out a lot more buildings more often. Oxygen, they came so close so many times, but they were just underperforming in those final ring fights, which of course are so crucial to nabbing those extra points. Sentinels and Luminosity Gaming, 2 teams that were performing wildly well in isolated team fights, but when it came to the game as a whole, they were kind of failing. And of course, Optic freaking Gaming. Yes, guys, I saw the duplex clip. Okay, Mellow Crit also saw the duplex clip. Everybody has seen the duplex clip, but their micro was okay. It just came down to their rotations and how the ring didn't exactly favor them. And I'm wondering if not only will Optic have a little better luck on especially World's Edge today, but will they just have a better time moving around this map?
And listen, that might be the most exemplary clip of it happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of the best. So don't ever feel bad when your PK and your secondary all whiff. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it goes that way. But yeah, they had some interesting spots to play with, and they had some keep out opportunities. We saw definitely on Stormpoint where they were kind of propping up and often keeping out teams like Los Demonios. But there are so many teams that are putting up a presence that have LOS on so many of these spots, especially around those beacon areas. It's so difficult to hold down those spots because they're kind of inherently built to be a little bit risky, a little bit hard to defend. And so we saw that with Optic getting absolutely run down and with Noct having to run down that entire hill at one point through a mass of teams. But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And it comes down to how people rotate and manage the way that they move through these rings, right? So we'll definitely have to see some teams adapt a little bit. And of course, the meta continues to shake up, so there's still a lot of surprises, still a lot of Gibraltars in the field, still a couple of Caustics. You can never expect to be safe, and you can never expect really to be completely unsafe against a very aggressive composition. We've been seeing so much of the Valkyrie, Seer, and even the Watson that's starting to show up as well. So a lot of different things that are propping up that you have to start thinking about. Every team has to be aware of what they might be running into when they walk into a building or where they go to a choke. You can never really know at this point.
At this point, the pool is becoming so expansive. It is terrifying to run into any team because, again, you have to come up with so many different constellations. And I feel like a real, poster child of that has to be, of course, 100 Thieves, who is not running Vayne today, actually. Despite that, though, Onmu is definitely a person that we had our eyes on because he was, I believe, the only person in the entire lobby who was running Ashe not only once, but at least twice on Stormpoint. And so I'm wondering, is he going to keep that? Luminosity is keeping what they were running the last game on Stormpoint yesterday, as Enemigo is actually going to keep that Bangalore after that Rolling Thunder didn't exactly perform too well in their firefight against G2.
Right now, we get to watch, I think, easily the team that maybe had the most expectations going into this, really into every tournament in recent times and just underperforming at that. But the first big contest we're going to see is from E8. was already swinging up onto this roof, finding some nice opening damage, and that was actually enough to completely eliminate that team. Renegades already eliminated from our first game, and again, laying on the disrespect heavy. If you weren't following it on the tweets, you are definitely seeing it on display here. E8 with a big win to start.
Yeah, I don't think you need to hop on Twitter to see the beef between these two teams at this stage. But Elevate, who had a little less luck yesterday winning that out, a great start to things. We're heading down to the southeastern end for third circle at the very least. And looks like Furia is quite alone this time. Now on Shipfall. Meanwhile, Synode, as Tripods, is still out there. Ass actually still might be, now that I think about it. Interesting. We'll see how they try and hold things up. Wingman season also quickly eliminated, and yeah, it is Ass and Tripods still trying to hold down Synode, and this time, Tripods are going to be able to finish it out. So already 4 teams going down. There is still a plethora of contests to watch here on Stormpoint.
You love to see when the beginning of your game has more shots on boxes than it does on other people. So yeah, we're seeing Tripods winning big here for what seems to be pretty close to the first time, I think, on Stormpoint. I don't know if they won these contests at all yesterday, so we'll get to see Tripods play a little bit later into the game. But obviously our big winners from day number 1, NRG, have a massive lead, a colossal lead right now that they can really leverage to do a kind of a lot of different things. They have the options there. They can choose to play a little bit more passive. They don't have to go out and have enormous point games every single time. They can play for that sort of grind placement, right, where they're just scrapping for those placement points. Or it obviously wouldn't hurt to play with the game plan that they stuck to during day number 1, since it worked so fantastically for them. Expect NRG to perform pretty well here, but of course a lot of teams nipping at their heels, trying to find a little bit more placement and a little bit more KP. Team Liquid, definitely one of those squads in the conversation.
It's so hard to look at one specific member of NRG, but of course Guild is probably the player that everyone has their eyes on more than anyone else. Of course, one of the most recent fulcrums of roster mania, just recently joining the NRG roster, and it's clear he fits in just fine. NRG, the kings of holding down that high ground, especially in those last, I would say, 3 games, actually. They were just so expert, such mastery of the ground that they were trying to control. They always were able to. Fury is going to be hopping in onto Los Demonios, actually, after this quick rotation from Shipfall. And Exhibit falls through, but it looks like Los Demonios already trying to gain their distance. They're going to try and re-engage, but Tech already falls, and Pander's going ham on this rooftop, breaking some shields, but he also has to bat back up, and so Zero Tricky trying to cover the fall back on this low ground. His Watson also contesting on this high ground. Still on Flesh is Luxford, and he will fall next. It's just one lone member left in the corner, and is going to get finished off by who else? By Pander's. Los Demonios is going to fall in 15th.
And day 2 is already looking like the Furia that you know and love. Furia playing so aggressive already, finding another fight straight out of their contest. So they are feeling pretty happy. Hopefully that's the confidence boost that's going to carry them to the big points today, because they sure need them. I think they had a grand total of 4 points coming into today. I could have that completely wrong, but in any case, we'll see Sentinels now, who had some successes, kind of a hot and cold performance. A lot of the times they're kind of caught with their pants down near the edge. So we'll see if they can face the likes of NRG here. They walk straight into the NRG POI, and they're already getting punished for it. Almost 50 Flesh getting put down already, but Sweet getting traded out and does need to back up, does need to bat up for a second. But look at that Scout, absolutely kitted out. Crust is going to get completely thirsted here, and now a 3v2 situation in favor of NRG. They are starting to collapse onto this fight. We do see the Seer ultimate trying to defend here, but NRG has the manpower, and they have a lot of these angles with kitted weapons to boot. So Sentinels now having to back up, maybe recover, and maybe hopefully trying to find a way out so they can deliver their teammate to the beacon, but it's not the case here. Senox goes down, and just a touch of flesh damage left to deal for them to completely wipe this squad. NRG on the chase.
It's only more on the run. Masterful greeds coming from NRG so far. That distance play to take care of Crust, and then that double back. Just great game sense coming from Sweet to be able to find that final kill. They see more. Can they find him? They only found one cell, and that's gonna do it. Sentinels is gonna fall.
Oh no, you walk into NRG's territory and NRG was ready to pounce. They did exactly that. Sentinels out very early here, and a lot of squads out early here, Tenric. Look at the squad count. We're down to 13 already, and Ring 1 has not even finished closing. An absolute brawl right now on day 2 of the Carnage Cup. So a lot of action might mean that we're going to get a slower mid game here. We're going to get a chance to breathe, a little bit of room to talk about our presenting sponsor, and that's going to be eBay. While we have the chance, I do want to shout out eBay for getting us some of the best deals in gaming, truthfully. If you're looking to re-up on some brand new gear, make sure you have all of your favorite equipment from the likes of Microsoft, Razer, whatever you might need. eBay has the best deal for you, so be sure to visit pks.gg/eBay. Again, that is pks.gg/eBay. Thank you for helping us put on this amazing showing. And so far, a lot of teams are starting to turn things around, but NRG is looking mighty strong, even on day 2.
Yeah, even with 6 as well, instead of Vayne rocking a different roster, which is why Onmu isn't on the Ashe, instead on that Loba. But Scurry actually back on this Fuse again, so they're giving it another shot here in game number 1. Reeds, along with the rest of Torn, have been attempting to contest tripods, and they actually will be able to finish that out after Aiden gets that final blow onto Nick Mercs, and so tripods will not make top 10 yet again after needing to contest another kind of secret powerhouse we've been watching so far. Torrent is only 1 point away from Ass pre-game 7, but since Ass is already out, Torrent is going to be ahead of them going into the leaderboard for game number 8, so I'm wondering just how meteoric can their rise be, and will this be a team that we absolutely are going to be forced to pay more attention to now after so long they've been trying to get our attention?
And one thing to note, this is a Rambo-less Torrent, so a bit of a different squad composition here. The dynamic may be a little different. We'll see if they can adapt a little bit better. They had some successes on day number 1, but a lot of the times they were kind of the ones that were getting pushed near the end games. We definitely saw NRG there absolutely bullying Torrent out of a decent spot on World's Edge, and we've seen it a couple of times from some other squads here on Stormpoint as well. So we'll see if they can get a little bit better position, as many of the squads that we've talked about have already dropped. 12 squads left here, and Ring 2 has not even started closing. Absolutely visceral performance so far from a lot of these teams. But SSG is there early with the damage, the charge rifle in hand for dropped. 3 purple shields already on deck. SSG is feeling very happy with their situation right now.
And with the Banga BH, no less, this is something that we never saw them on until now. Frex opting off the Seer this time around and drop, just still farming with this charge rifle. Hey, listen, I know it may alienate me, but I like watching this weapon. I think it's super funny. I think it's awesome, and I hope that it never fully leaves the meta, because Drop is definitely having the time of his life farming some damage up with it, having this Rolling Thunder ready, and this is crazy. As Space Station Gaming, they actually were able to contest this territory back in the end of game number 6, and they've immediately just fallen back here, and they haven't had to leave yet, as this following circle will favor them. Not too much puppy guarding necessary either, as there's no rotation that'll really come to them outside of maybe a wanton southern end, and perhaps somebody still waiting in that ring is dropped, and Frex still trying to farm this out beyond the border, and they will get some extra damage. Not too much of a trade either, so I'd say they're pretty dang happy with it. But the other Bangalore in the lobby, Enemigo, along the rest of Luminosity Gaming, also waiting on those sidelines, could potentially get a rotation in if SSG is too preoccupied.
And it is important for Space Station to pressure that team that is sitting behind them, because looking at where the zone is potentially pulling, we're looking at an entire network of chokes and small buildings and strange covers. So if you can clear your backside a little bit here, all of that open ground that you have to worry about is mostly up to the north, up towards where Who is sitting right now. Who putting the pressure back towards SSG, not quite winning out here and actually eating a lot of damage as a result. Wave and the crew might have to make a difficult decision here. Do they want to wrap back all the way around, or do they want to walk up, get here early enough so that they don't have to worry about the pressure from SSG? They, of course, risk running into another team that might be sitting in those buildings right near the gravity cannon. So we'll see if they post up. Posted up right now, though. We end up seeing EA and Furia, who might break out in a full-out brawl here. Presley almost going down right away, and I think he does.
Yeah, Watson and Panders just moved in so dang quickly. This black hole is going to be able to use as a follow-up and elevate. I mean, might just be forced to go on the run here. They were in such a bad position on this high ground. No natural cover to really support them. And so, yeah, Furia is just going to try and follow them on the way through. And, oh, with this EVA 8, it's not like it's going to be that hard for Panders. Elevate will fall, and Furia will win another contest as long as it isn't against G2.
Yeah, Furia looking like a whole different beast, and that's what we needed to see from them in game number 1. We'll have to continue seeing it here. A great strategy here that they're employing, again, being able to clear out their backside with the edge. It's really strong because if they're the last ones to punch on some of those god spots or some of those great rotation positions, they can be the ones to put on the pressure. Again, we keep saying it, but NRG did a fantastic job of that yesterday. So Furia maybe taking some notes, coming back to the drawing board, and of course not being contested as much on their drop means they have a little bit of time and space to work with. And of course, the aggression has not ceased to exist within their game plan. So here they see potentially some other victims that they're going to want to pressure here and fight out. No ultimate on his Watson, though, means that this might be slowed down for just a touch as Ring 3 is still 2 minutes away from closing.
Yeah, he had to use that exhibit on Elevate here. But Furia, they got to be optimistic. One team away from finding their first placement points of the Carnage Cup here this weekend. Definitely love to see stuff like that and boosting their scores up. Tripods, they better watch themselves because now that 19th place spot is looking juicy for Furia and beyond. You got to remember, it's consistency that matters. Only half the event was played yesterday. You still got to play 6 more games. In Furia, you know for a fact they are going to go 110% the entire way to that finish line because that top 3 spot is always in sight for them.
And we've lost some of our top 5 gatekeepers. I believe Ass was exactly in 5th place at the start of today's game, so they are now eliminated and will likely be overtaking depending on how this game shapes out. A lot of squads were just on the outside looking in. I think SSG was right outside of that top 5 standing, and that's kind of where it starts, right? It's not quite top 3, but it's a good way to start. And unfortunately, Torrent is not going to be anywhere near that top 5 spot, at least for the results of game number 1, as they are farmed up by the likes of Team Liquid, but James Fearless already answering, and Sykes in a terrible spot will not be recovered by their teammate, and Team Liquid playing at the very bare minimum as a duo right now, and I think that's the Loba that they've decided to employ once again.
And this is necessary from Team Liquid. Now that Torrent's gone, it's all coming down to gatekeeping that top 3 instead of that top 5. We still haven't gotten to pay any attention to Esports Arena, who I believe may still be alive at the moment. They just weren't really prevalent in KP after their first 2 wins. They took a bit of a step back, but after NRG's wild display yesterday, it is clear that ESA is going to have to level up yet again. And here they are, Phony, Clane, and Fury, the kings when it came to locking down territory with these Watson gates and just finding God spot after God spot after God spot. Have they done it again? We will find out in the upcoming circles, but for now they look pretty secure.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have pivoted over away from the crypto. I'm not sure if they were running it yesterday. I don't quite remember, but no crypto today at least. And here is one of the classic brawls that I think we were going to expect here. NRG loves to play that keep out strategy where they're just waiting for a team to walk up, and Optic often one of the last ones to walk up, and Sweet going to be knocked out almost immediately in this engagement. Skittle Cakes finds a knock, and now the reposition from Gil to try and find some opening damage and answer back, but does get absolutely cracked. And NRG, Nathan also going to eat a lot of that damage. So here we go. The engage is here from Skittle. Oh my goodness, that was so much damage though. Guild answers right back. I'm not sure if that was actually Skittles, who has now taken down Sweet in the full thirst look. So Optic still fighting out here, but Guild giving them a very hard time here. Not going to go down without a fight by any means, and already on Flesh, answering with the car, going down, unfortunately, and it is down to Nathan. Can he clutch up?
And his black hole's already gone too. He's got to hold this truck around against 3. Gil doesn't have this natural cover to work with just yet. Here come the Valk Tax, and everybody's hopping in, focus of attention to hold Nathan down, but it's the damage that gets pumped on that front line. Optic is on top in the duel, and just after that we hop over to Esports Arena, who is getting contested by Furia, and already Fury has been felled. Panders with the climb up after the fly with the VTOLs. Oh, that was gorgeous stuff from one of the favorites from yesterday, but 20th place coming into today. They are looking so solid all of a sudden. Now Space Station Gaming in a brawl of their own. Frex already being forced to bat back up. This is it. Mello, the top 8 squads here in round number 4. Zen with a solid angle on that high ground, but he's going to have to move in soon, as will just about everybody else. SSG still playing puppy guard, but they're taking so much damage for it, and it could lead to a whole lot of trades. But in the process, they're going to get as much as they can up against 100 Thieves, who is the team that they're fighting up against. Scurry is gone. Onmu is also downed. It's just down to 6. The sub today. In the meanwhile, Luminosity Gaming also taking on a threat of their own. I believe they had just taken care of Who, but now they're getting third-partied out, and Yanya going to take a step back behind this kit to be able to res up Enemigo, but no, it's a bluff to try and find out this Caustic, and there goes Bronzy instead, but Yanya with the drop onto James Fearless, and it's G-Force, actually, that's taking the brunt of this third party, but Yanya, the only one remaining, rotating around these corpses on these rocks, so many different altitudes to play with, but can Yanya manage it all, hiding behind this knockdown shield, can find the thirst, can find nothing else, but no! The punch can finish off G-Force potentially, but Luminosity directly after, it was Liquid that was able to find the thirst onto Capra, and following that, the rest of it onto Luminosity. Nocturnal, the one remaining member of Team Liquid, finds not only rat points, but KP atop it.
And the map is replete with fights right now. Look at the way Furia inevitably dropped onto ESA's head and absolutely farmed up 3 full KP on their way to another fight right after. Team Liquid is eventually eliminated by 6, but Furia is far from done with this fight. Look at the damage getting put down by Zero Tricky. That was 95 to Reds, and they continue to walk up. Panders getting traded out though and does go down. His Watson forced to back up from this fight just a little bit. Tries to interrupt some of the heals that might be happening behind this rock, and they are just posturing up now as the ring starts to close. They're getting looked at from behind as well. We see the Bloodhound scan that is going to give him grief. There are so many shots flying onto Furia's side of the map, and his Watson and Zera are just doing everything they can to live. Will they live much longer? That is yet to be seen. Zero Tricky now fully on the disengage, is going to get away with his life, but has 2 team members left in the ground above him.
And they were at the hands of Optic as well, finding so many kills here. Another rat getting found by Zera. It's a 1v1, but 6 is able to take care of it, and 100 Thieves is in the top 3 thanks to 6. But in that 1v1, he revealed himself, and so now both Optic as well as SSG have the freedom to fire away at him. It's going to be Space Station and Optic in this final brawl for the circle. Both teams fully kitting up. Zen does have this ultimate to be able to burn towards final circle. But 6 still holding down this rock. What a god spot in itself for a rat and a rat alone. Now SSG and Optic catching wind of each other, understanding, okay, so this is the opponent that we have to deal with as well on this sideline. Zen already getting burned away, has to bat up first, and so it's just Frex and Drop. Try and hold it down. Drop is still with this charge rifle, not finding much connection either. Optic, as always, their micro is solid, their initial angling is good, but when it comes time to move, will they actually catch wind? Will they get better enough to be able to carry through with their first win of the event? SSG gonna be the first to move in on top of these smokes. And that means they're running straight into 6 in the 3v1. 6 ready to wrap this out till the day he dies. It's the 1v3 and 100 Thieves falls, but SSG, they have to recover quick if they want to take on Optic, currently hiding behind the rocks and the smokes that were placed down by Dropped right before that. But I believe this Rolling Thunder may still be available on the clearing, and indeed, yes, Dropped is going to proc that, but Optic is split up, and so they have to split their resources among them as well. That being said, good amount of damage being done, but Optic, they have time, now that they're in this final circle, to just heal right back up and start from square one.
And this is going to be a straight up 3v3, 3 red shields to Optic Gaming's 2 reds and a gold. A straight up clean brawl is upon us, and round 5 closest down. We have the final arena that will decide our game 1 winners for day number 2, and both of these teams really need the points. SSG, one of those squads that was just on the outside looking in. Optic Gaming, who had a rough start to the tournament thus far. Any one of these teams would love to see a big dub here, as well as those final 3 kill points that would go their way. And it looks like Optic Gaming is on the engage. The green wall starting to close in around Space Station, and at least one member seems to be caught completely out of position, and the angles weren't there to punish either. So they will drop Zen, and Noct is plenty healthy. Right as I say that though, does eat flesh damage and is fully cracked, is going to be able to get this bat off though, and Duplex does have the gold shield to quickly recover all of that shield held that they lost. And a straight up 3v2 situation for Optic Gaming. This is looking doomed for Space Station.
They're still playing distance here. Skittlecake's finally getting the drop down after that tactical place down. Optic still trying to hold down this gravity cannon. Now there's the jump in onto the greed, trying to hide behind one knocked out shield is Frex. He will fall next. It's a 3v1 on Space Station Gaming, and Optic Gaming will find the finisher. Redemption in the very first game of day number 2. Optic didn't forget their macro. Duplex didn't forget his aimbot. The green wall proceeds.
And they said they said Caustic Gibby be damned. They picked up the composition that we have been seeing all over this meta, and they make it look so good here. Finally adapting, finally finding those fights, taking out NRG on their way to a fantastic game 1 win for day number 2. Their storm point looked completely unmatched right now. They're going to have to keep it up, though, because they are down in those leaderboards. Great way to start it, though. Great way to just absolutely decimate Space Station on the way to their first win of the tournament.
I mean, I feel like everybody's got to be pretty satisfied with that game, right? Space Station Gaming leveled up, Optic Gaming leveled up, 100 Thieves had one of the best games this entire weekend. Furia had their best game, absolutely. They're going to have more than double their point total now. Tripods were looking solid. Elevate versus Renegades, that contest is still going to be going on. I mean, there are so many things that are either continuing or beginning, and a legacy is truly forming here at the 4th Carnage Cup, and we still have 5 more games to determine even more of it. We'll be back with the leaderboard and the second game of Storm Point today after this short break.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Welcome back, everyone. We are continuing with this steamroll that has been the Carnage Cup Day 2 so far. The first game had a lot of action, a lot of teams falling early, and a lot of the bottom part of the leaderboard just turning the whole story on its head.
Yeah, this tally is really going to be shaken up. Furia having their best game that they've had all weekend. You could say the same for Optic as well as 100 Thieves. Those three teams definitely stood out to me more than any others when it came to that game. And, you know, the numbers are definitely going to show it, which we will get to in a second. I'm not entirely... Oh, okay, it is. Okay, so NRG, they are able to crack triple digits, but that wasn't exactly their game. And so the 38-point gap from second place has been lessened to a measly 34. That's right. Watch out, NRG fans. You better run, baby. Super scared. 100 Thieves now all the way up to 12th place. But, of course, the hype fest has to go towards Optic Gaming and Torrent, who have both broken through the ass threshold. And, yes, I am very aware of what I just said. Torrent now in top 5, and Optic only 6 points away from it. Massive movement from them.
Yeah, big things happening on the left side of the leaderboard. Torrent, we saw them drop a little bit earlier than we had maybe expected, especially after taking out tripods, but they were able to farm up just enough points to break through that that ash threshold exactly. And Optic Gaming with a huge game actually managed to nearly double up their points, if not straight up doubling up their points with that win. Space Station Gaming, though, that is also a very great game for them. We mentioned that they were just outside of that top 5 previously, or sitting right around that bubble, and here they are firmly in 3rd place with a decent lead over esports arena.
Yeah, at this point, it really is kind of just a race for NRG, because at this point, there isn't really a huge gap between any of these teams outside of NRG, actually. I mean, 4 points, 8 points, 8 points, 6 points, 1 point, 5 points. Like, there is nothing keeping any of these teams from moving up or down immediately throughout this leaderboard, and we still have 5 games to determine it. But the second one that we're heading to today, we are going back to Storm Point for the second out of 3 times for today. I want to see more of the teams that we saw before, but I also want to see some new breakthroughs. I want to see NRG back at it again, because their consistency needs to remain in order for them to hold on to this #1 spot. Team Liquid was looking beautiful. I think that Sykes has been a wonderful and welcome addition to the team, and I really want to see how they can continue their infection of this map like they've done so well before. Oxygen, of course, the team that I pay attention to probably the most often outside of whoever is the favorite to win each and every single game, just because they always look good, they just always don't look good enough, and they can never break through that ceiling in order to make it to the best of the best. We'll see if they'll be able to do that at some point in these following 5 games. And beyond that, of course, Furia, they are now no longer 20th. Instead, they're 19th. Mello, they gotta get further up here.
Yeah, and I think I have to see a couple of things from these teams. Great job for Furia. They're racking up a lot of those points. We saw them farm up multiple squads, including Los Demonios and the aforementioned esports arena. But they're going to have to continue doing that game by game. And I think what a lot of these teams are going to have to sort of adjust their game plan around is the fact that so many squads dropped early makes me think that there's a little bit of a lack of discipline from some of these squads that are just looking for that KP, looking for that fighting. We saw that the squads might make an adjustment from day 1 to day 2, but being a little too over aggressive can absolutely punish your chances of having big scoring games, which are not just games where you're farming the entire lobby. It's games where you're having that balance of decent placement and, of course, decent kill counts. So that balance will have to be struck here in game number 2 for many of these squads. And a lot of these squads, I appreciate the fact that they've grabbed this leaderboard and turned it upside down by the horns. And you know what? Why the sheets not grab your thirst by the horns? You got to try these new smoothies and refreshers featuring real Red Bull with our partner Sheets. $3.99 real Red Bull on these refreshers, man. It's crazy. And if you want to be super quick, make sure you select curbside pickup pks.gg/sheets to get those deals. pks.gg/sheets with a Z at the end of that, of course. And here we're going to get to see if E8 can actually just grab Renegades by the horns once again. They won this first contest. Let's see if they can run it back.
Here we go again, and right at the beginning of the drop as well, this ship really favored our favorite contest for the day. Right at the very beginning of the lobby, one of these teams is going to fall. Couple ways to try and scout out the competition. Mercy missing out on that focus of attention, but not missing that Sentinel no-scope. And is going to be able to find you to begin. Pow Pow onto Mercy, though, as well to trade things out. And so it's just down to Golden and Presley to hold down this fort. Golden is still holding down this low ground, and Presley sees one around the corner, but there's a bit of an invasion going on from the middle through these blue shields that Presley has just been able to break. But of course, as that Valkyrie, able to play this altitude on and off a little more often than Horizon can, at least if this fight doesn't go too long. Renegades attempting to maybe just hide behind this knockdown shield, perhaps bluff this res to force Presley to continue peeking out. But now that Golden has upgraded the shield and continue to get it back, we're back to the 2v2. The peek out from Pow Pow, and Presley holding down that door. That's a massive beginning. It's now the 1v1. Golden has to break through this one last door. But Renegades, they have the exact same gap to their name. They're both going to take a step back, take a breather. Golden shielding back up. And this fight still rampages on as 3 squads have already fallen.
Yeah, there's been a lot of action here at the start. Renegades, of course, shopping very early, but doing a great job to stay up this time around. And we are down to a 1v1 situation. I think all members are thirsted, so it will have to be the final fight here, the 1v1. Finding a lot of opening damage, but isn't able to clean it up onto Golden. And he will survive and take down Renegades for a second time. Meanwhile, Los Demonios loses out against the likes of Furia, who will have another game here.
And Tripods were able to take down Ass and Synode yet again. These contests getting very interesting for the teams that so many people were really paying attention to. Ass, of course, the biggest topic of conversation. Albert Lily, Slurp, and of course, Snightdown just recently returning from Halo, and they performed so well. Or else I would say that if it wasn't just that one game that really brought them that merit, outside of that, I gotta say, Ass, they weren't looking that solid. Their rotations were a bit too slow for my liking when it came outside of Synode, even after they won their engagements up against Tripods, and it just seemed like once they took their POI, they figured they could just wipe off their hands, be done and dusted, and they really couldn't be. You can't afford that in a lobby like this. You have to keep pushing, and Ass just didn't. Tripods, I'm seeing that initiative come out so much more often, and I can't wait to see what Nick Merckx and friends can do with it. Optic and NRG once again clashing out here in the high grounds, as both Guild and Nathan already at these purple shields attempting to farm away some damage from afar. Speaking of afar, Furia has definitely a long ways to go for this circle. We'll see if they're able to make it. There's nobody exactly babysitting the edge of that circle either, so Furia actually may have some freedom getting in here, as does SSG. Has dropped in crew. We're gonna just barely make it in. We're on to our top 15, and it seems that almost everybody has figured themselves out. There's still a little bit of a commotion over on Optic, Sentinels, NRG, and Team Liquid, but that's because that's where the circle's headed.
Yeah, and taking a look at how busy Checkpoint is already getting, we see Team Liquid near the low ground. We see NRG, who drops here, obviously already crafted up, has plenty of shields, plenty of attachments. Optic also there a little bit earlier than we saw them last time, and Sentinels, who was the one that ended up dying to NRG at this Checkpoint contest towards the end of the Ring 1 close, now backing up and opting for a completely different rotation. This is a discipline that I was sort of talking about, understanding that you lost out once, you know you don't have this team out-kitted. You're going to rotate around. You see that Optic is there as well. So just making their way over towards another direction to hopefully play this game out a little longer. And a lot of the squads that are dealing with these contests, I think that one of the biggest problems is the second part of their contest, and that's surviving out of their rotation. They spent so much time contesting that team, especially with that Renegades fight that took so long. And now you have to figure out how quickly you can loot your POI, how quickly you can make your rotation, gather those resources, figure out where you might rotate to your next beacon if you didn't get it. There are so many factors and so little time left to make a decision.
There's a big duality that comes from finding your perfect spot far too early. You don't really have anything to springboard off of, but also you have that security momentarily. Team Liquid may not, as there's a little bit of a FOA thrown their way, but nothing more than that. In the meanwhile, Tripods were actually able to take down Torrent as well, and so that's already 6 KP granted to them, not just wiping Ass, but wiping TOR as well. Again, a team that we were really looking for to break through that top 5, and they did the previous game, but they won't be able to do so here. But then again, neither will Ass, so all eyes are on the rest of these teams trying to crack through to this top 5, like Optic Gaming, which is still sitting pretty as they try and ward off Team Liquid, NRG, and Sentinels here. Wingman Season, a team that didn't really get too much time in the limelight the previous game, but a team that has been looking pretty solid. If you saw the clip that was circulating from them yesterday after Sentinels were able to take down Retzi in their skyward dive, they had a bit of an unfortunate bug on World's Edge. Hopefully they are able to avoid that here today, as they're just moving from building to building, as is 100 Thieves. Once again, 6 on this roster. Rat of the Century the previous game, but Onmu and Scurry continuing to run that Loba fuse.
And still a lot more teams dead than I would like to see for this first ring. 100 Thieves maybe picking up a play from the Team Liquid playbook and actually also going on the Loba. Team Liquid has had a decent amount of success, and I think they're at one of those spots where they can make it do, you know, a lot of what it needs to do. Just soak up a lot of that extra loot as teams force their way in and end up dying to some of those fights. They can just pick up the pieces of some of those loot boxes and just kind of wait out the game and hope that it continues to pull your way and that you can eventually fight your way out with some decent loot. E8, another team that is going to have to make this rotation a little bit later here in ring number 2. There you see the pings for maybe where they're trying to get to or where they're hoping that they can get to eventually. But we know there are a lot of teams topside already waiting, potentially preparing an ambush for teams like E8 that are making their way so late here. This is a very populated area. Can they break through? That is yet to be seen. And especially teams like Tripods, will they even be able to break through that ring that they have to make their way through when they're still crafting in zone?
It really is, you know, all eyes are on these Seers. You know, how reactively is Mercy going to throw down this exhibit when Elevate finds out how occupied this map truly is? Well, they're going to get a good idea of it immediately as they find Nocturnal chilling on the roof, and just like that, Team Liquid's only 2 members strong. Can they react efficiently in time? That exhibit thrown down immediately for Mercy, and now Elevate knows that these 2 remaining Team Liquid members are in the area, but they also know that they're getting contested by NRG and Optic in the meanwhile. They don't exactly know how many angles they have to watch out for, but at the very least, they're able to find their opening kill, and they may be able to find 2 more as long as their entrance into this building is perfect.
Yeah, and that's the tough part of finding that early knock, is that they won't necessarily be able to pressure it because you don't want to funnel through the one door into the building. That is certainly a recipe for your entire squad getting wiped, and they know they can't set up those clever angles because squads like NRG are already looking at them. Optic as well across the way might also be setting up the angles. So for the time being, TL will stay alive, will be able to keep away E8, but can they recover Nocturnal to get a full 3 stack up before the later parts of this game is yet to be seen. E8 actually already moving a completely different direction, recognizing that this isn't even siegeable. And that, again, some of that patience that we need to see from these squads. You just can't get too excited with finding 1 knock. These teams are all very competent, and 2v3s are not as rare as you might believe. So you have to be very careful and think about your late game as opposed to the fights that you can take now.
These teams really starting to split up as well. You saw Skittle Cakes from Optic taking this giant low ground and heading over to exhibit onto Sentinels as well. So Optic, it seems like they're trying to spread themselves out a little more and get as much information as they can. So when this circle starts to not favor them, which will eventually happen because it is Optic after all, but their movement is sublime. Space Station Gaming attempting to finally make their final move through this circle, but they spot Sentinels along the way. In fact, they're going to be checking them out from afar here as Sentinels are actually going to make a run for it outside of the circle momentarily. Dropped, getting some good connection once again on this charge rifle. And Space Station, they have this follow-up circle to kind of hold this down. In the meanwhile, we're waiting on a couple more teams to kind of pull themselves together. Wingman Season and Tripods currently engaging in a little bit of a firefight. His Deeds has already fallen. Gent and Nick Merckx holding behind this rock while the rest of Wingman Season attempts to engage with them. Both teams outside of the circle, and both teams haven't had the same rotation, so it just comes down to who fights a little bit better. And so far, that's Nick Merckx. That's 1 down on his Zednim, so it's the 2v1, but Nick Merckx has no shields, but they do still have this black hole running, so they do have a little bit to work with. They have to get up to this high ground. That's going to be Gent's job. Nick Merckx holding down the fort on the low ground. That's 2 down, and Retzi's going to get the finisher from Gent. Wingman Season is fallen, but directly after that, Luminosity are going to fall in on the third party, and Nick Merckx falls first.
And this is a great way to take this opportunity. Luminosity able to pick up at least 1, clear out this entire southwest side of the map, since we've already seen how many squads have taken to the north chunk. LG, if they're able to pick this up, if they're able to wipe the last member of that Nick Merckx squadron, they might have a very nice rotation here to work into Checkpoint. Checkpoint, not an easy spot to siege. That high ground is deadly, and we see how many squads have already taken residence there. And some of the squads to watch right now, You're kind of not going to be doing a whole lot for at least a ring or two. We see Furia had a pretty free walk up on the northeast side. We had Optic, who's just chilling in a building, really not doing anything worth talking about. They are very comfortable right now, but teams like Sen will eventually have to deal with squads like Furia, who are potentially waiting in the wings, potentially prowling, waiting for Sentinels to make a positional mistake that they can take advantage of, since they are so good at winning these fights, especially if they get an early knock or at least an early, burst of damage that opens up the fight for them.
There's no way that Sentinels isn't going to play edge when they know these rocks haven't been fully cleared. Watson has a good advantage here to at least know that Lou is there. Lou's actually going to try and clear out rocks all by himself. Watson could get a big punish here. Lou already down to max shields, and the flesh gone too. It's going to be a 2v3 for Sentinels to deal with Furia.
And this is how it starts. You cannot be too careful on this map with Furia still in it. Finding exactly what I was talking about, finding that early knock and actually a full thirst here. So Sentinels went from, finding a decent situation where they might be able to force their way into a later ring to now being in shambles against the likes of Furia, who are so good at winning 3v3s. You make it a 3v2, you're most certainly on the back foot and already thinking about your retreat. Furia taking up space here. His Watson eating a little bit of damage, but they are running for the hills 100% here. And now Furia has cleared out one of the only squads that they need to worry about on this edge of the map, which will play out fantastically for them as Ring 3 closes in about a minute.
That's great. Now they know they get to be patient because they know that they were playing edge from the jump. They have all of these buildings to dodge and weave between, but honestly, I don't even think that matters. Furia arguably having more territory control than anybody else at the moment, but that will quickly go come a couple seconds from now. G-Force currently in a fight of their own. Up here. And try and hop up against Sentinels, actually, as Sinox falls. Sentinels ran right into a trap that G-Force were holding down outside of this crevice. And they're going to be able to get one kill at least because of it. They just have one more encrust that they may need to find, but I may have to wait as G-Force. They may not know exactly what they're walking into, which is just about everybody else. Hi, Exhibit. You gonna eventually drop down there? Thanks, buddy. That was definitely... I want to see that every exhibit. I want to see it be a big old bouncy ball.
Can you imagine if you could just pad the ultimate from the Seer and it just bounces up and down the whole time it's active? God, I would pay money to see that.
Exhibit going boing.
So
boing,
G-Force does
boing.
actually end up picking up the Sentinel skills, but that means that they are likely the ones that will have to deal with the fury of Furia, who is sitting on this edge. I believe they have a Valkyrie, so they might choose to gamble, but James Fearless currently gambling with their HP, almost getting knocked down all the way. That is a crumb of a half of a pixel. That is absurd. They just get away with it, but they are decently posted up. They have that shield that Bronzy has put down, but James Fearless is still not out of the woods yet. Actually has to heal full flesh and bat now once again. Actually gets the pixel of the shield this time to help him out a little bit more, but this is not looking good.
G-Force has to pay attention to too many areas at once, and the question is, will Fury be able to punish for that? And even if they do that, what happens next? Do Fury take the place of G-Force? Are they the team that's going to have to be worried about focus from every other angle? It's a big problem that Fury may not know that they're exactly walking into, but with 12 squads still on the board, they have a general idea of how many people they're going to be looking at. Luminosity is going to eventually lose this fight. It was an on and off fight they were having up against who here, but... Or no, actually, it's OXG, excuse me, is directly after Space Station Gaming went out their own fight against, I believe that was 100 Thieves that they were dealing with. Team Liquid was also kind of jumping in that mix. You're going to start seeing a lot of third parties, a lot of greeds, and a lot of steals coming through. After all of this open ground is the only place where any of these bullets can fly through, as well as the ordinances, of course, which we haven't seen too much of yet. Because a lot of the pylons haven't actually fallen yet. A lot of the Watsons that are left, which are few and far between, granted, have been pretty patient with their ultimate placement.
And we do have to consider the fact that this becomes a big resource management game for the teams that got here early. The Watson squads will be able to wait out a little longer and take a little bit more poke before they're super worried about being able to heal up later in the game, since that generator does provide free shields. And of course, Watson does slowly but surely recover that shield on her own, so that will be pretty good for them. But again, squads like Optic Gaming, squads like NRG, they are going to have to start thinking about where they want to move, what squads they might want to engage on strictly for the resources that they're going to provide for themselves into the late game here, which we are certainly approaching quickly as 30 seconds remain on ring number 4, and Zera is going crazy right now.
That's 2 now he's been able to find. Or he took care of 6 at least, but 100 Thieves, they're also getting aggressed from more than one location. All these teams, it's not even a third party, it's just a party. All the teams are here, they're all having a ball, trying to lock down their own buildings and get what kills they can from the distance. And here is Crust. We now know the situation. NRG gonna find some finishers as well. Onto G-Force. Bronzy and Fearless both down, so now we have more than one rat entering the ring, but NRG, they're in a pretty terrible position on this low ground in this corner. They're gonna have to move in probably more than anybody else. Sweet batting in a very precarious location right now, but with this Horizon Tactical, they'll be able to, at the very least, hop back up to this high ground.
And NRG there with a very big commit, but that just goes to show how much they might be hunting for those kills or might be low on those resources, and Optic Gaming might be the ones to punish them for their aggression. They see the pings there and they are starting to lay down the damage. Not too much though, not quite finding the shots that they need, but NRG still gives up the high ground, and that means that all of the squads above as well as all of the squads across the way, excuse me, will be able to punish them. They're already punished here. NRG sweet going down, and Nathan might be following suit soon if they can't get some cover. Guild also eating a lot of damage and does go down as well. And now Optic shooting fish in a barrel. Those fish are NRG and they are eliminated from the lobby.
And Optic still holding down this high ground as well. Duplex finding some good damage at the moment and breaking yet another shield after taking down Esports Arena. They have a lot of boxes they have to work with, but they are one of the teams that also has to rotate a lot, much like NRG was trying to. Crust will have to eventually make his way through as well. He's still ratting out for Sentinels, and he's going to have to move directly between these buildings as well. There's not too much natural cover in this last circle. One singular building, and I'm not entirely sure who's holding it down. Furia on the other side, and they have the perfect door to re-engage, but for now, they are perfectly fine with hunkering down and bunkering up.
And Furia is so good at this. Their game plan finally coming to fruition. They forced their way into some of the best spots right now. And Furia taking up a lot of room. They understand that either there's a rat there or at least space and pressure to be exerted against some of the other squads. But look at this, Tenric. We have 7 squads, one of which is a rat, notably, at the very least. But we have 7 squads as Ring 5 starts to close here in 15 seconds. So this is going to be a hotly contested fight. Make that 6 as the last member of 100 Thieves is eliminated.
Scurry finally gone, and it was Optic who did it again. They've been able to hold this high ground down the whole time, but that's going to end in 3, 2, 1, and every single team is on the move, including Nocturnal, who I believe may be the only member left for Team Liquid as well, getting absolutely melted just on crumbs for the moment. And who else but Jen from Tripods finding that killer, but oh my goodness. That is going to do it. Oi Senpai finds the kill credit on a Nocturnal, though. And so OXG, who is still alive, is going to be able to find an extra one. Tripod's actually getting found by Optic as well. These teams are really starting to amp up now. Optic and Furia, 2 of the big favorites at this point to win this, but Optic still on this long-winded rotation. Good PK shot. Skittlecakes finding 45, then 9, then Duplex finishing it off. And there's another rat gone. We're in the top 3.
And if you were excited about the 3v3 before, check this one out. Optic Gaming, though, in shambles a little bit after having to clear at least one team member from behind, at least one opponent from behind, excuse me. And now Duplex gets knocked. Skittlecakes down to just 30 flesh, roughly a little bit less even, down to knocked, and Skittlecakes against Furia. Furia, one of the best fighting teams in the game right now, and actually has the advantage against Optic. Panders walking up to lay down the damage, making sure that they cannot recover here, making sure that they have a perfect game executed here. They have oxygen to worry about near the end of this match, though, so the sooner they can take care of Optic Gaming, the sooner they can worry about the final 3v3 or potentially 3v2. I'm not sure how many squad members are left for oxygen, and I don't think it's a full squad there. We see 8 players alive, 8 players left, and now this is going to start to break out in very aggressive fashion as 20 seconds left before this ring closes.
Black hole down on the middle of the circle. Furia, they're going to take their sweet time, understanding that Optic has to rotate even more than they do, and they have a better position to rotate from. Furia has the luxury of being able to play patiently. OXG and Optic, they don't get to do that, but OXG, they're perfectly comfortable still trying to ride this out in the 2v2 versus Optic, and they're going to be able to find the others, but Furia, they hear that, and they're able to find Protectful. It's Oi Senpai versus the rest of Furia, and it's not going to happen! Furia take their first game of the Carnage Cup!
Yo, Furia showed up mad today. They are having huge games, fantastic success. They are finally starting to execute the game plan exactly how they know how to do it. They managed to knock out Sentinels on their way to checkpoint, where they ultimately knocked out squad and squad after that. Fantastic work here from Furia. They are starting to wake up and heat up, and we're just on game number 2 of today, and we have one more storm point to go.
I'm not entirely sure why Senpai and Protectful decided to rotate to center so early on. I assume it was to try to greed Optic and trying to understand that, like, okay, I don't think we win an isolated 1v1 versus either of these teams, considering it would be a 2v3 regardless, so let's just try and find what we can, greed what we can, and then die in the process, I suppose. And so I guess OXG kind of got the job done, which will grant them a couple extra points to net them more on the leaderboard, but Furia, absolutely the main characters at this point. We gotta see how much farther they'll traverse. Again, the leaderboard is about to be shaken up when we return from this short break.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Don't you just love Sheets?
Joe, good to see you.
It's the kind of place where they know you by name. Yeah, they love saying hey to Joe.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Every
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
single
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
day. Too bad your name is Kevin. Doesn't matter. You're Joe now. Why the Sheets not?
We are back for what will be the final game of Storm Point here for Carnage Cup number 4. Furia showing up in a big way right when it was needed. My name is Millicrate, joined once again by Tenric. And Tenric, if the scoreboard wasn't already turned on its head, believe me, right now it's going to look absolutely discombobulated.
Yeah, kind of wild game at this point. Tripods, I think that might have been their best performance yet for today. Furia, of course, I mean, what can't you say about them at this point? They are on fire today so far. We'll see if they continue their crazy run through Storm Point. Optic, while they weren't able to win game number 8, they actually were still able to get a lot of points along the way, so that might actually bring them up into the top 5, but I can't decide that. The leaderboard can. Let's take a look at those numbers. Of course, again, if you're new to Apex, it's the same sort of format as ALGS. So there's placement points, so you get 12 for first, 9 for second, 7 for third, so on and so forth, and of course 1 point for every single kill along the way as well. And after 8 games deep, this leaderboard is still looking insane. NRG, their gap does hold due to Team Liquid and SSG and Esports Arena having sort of underwhelming performances, but it is official. Optic is in the top 5. The green wall is coming, and it is coming fast.
and Furia shoves their way into the top 10, which is massively significant. They went from a dead last. They multiplied their score by 4, Tenric. I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
by 10 after yesterday.
Yeah, by 10, excuse me. Completely, public math always ruins me on these broadcasts. But yes, they were sitting on 4 points up to 41. That is ridiculous. That is insane. And they are not done. They have 4 more games to do it again and again and again. And there's 2 rules, right? The leaderboard never lies and the ring always wins. And right now, the squads that have really continued to exert the pressure and rack up the points that they need, TL and Space Station, I mean, they aren't winning games. We're hardly seeing them in the top 3 here. We did see Space Station towards that final fight in game number 1, but here they are still holding strong in 2nd and 3rd place respectively.
Yeah, Space Station still has yet to win a game, actually, if I'm not mistaken, and yet they are still sitting on the podium. They will get a piece of this prize pool if all continues to go well, but with the meteoric rise, some of these teams are pronouncing for themselves that gap, while it hasn't changed yet, is looking more and more appetizing by the second, as, you know, we started with like a 35-point gap in between 1st and 2nd going into today, but while that gap hasn't changed between 1st and 2nd, the gap between 1st and everybody else seems to be far less. NRG have got to get their act together before somebody truly pounces, and it may not even be Furia. Sentinels had some really solid plays that game as well. Of course, Crust bringing those extra placement points to the table, very well played, and Oxygen getting that 2nd place spot as well, giving them a little extra bit of boost up in that leaderboard. There are still so many different prospects, but it could all change after this game because this is the final one on Storm Point.
And before we kick off this final Storm Point game, we do want to shout out another one of our fantastic sponsors, Investor. Investor will help you gain all of the tools that you need to start investing, as well as the best tools to continue bringing your money up and learning how to do it right. So be sure to visit pks.gg/investor for the best tools in the game. Again, pks.gg/investor to start investing, learning how to invest. Of course, remember that investing does put your capital at risk and can lead to losses. Again, pks.gg/investor. Be sure to visit. Thank you again, Investor, for helping us to bring this show. And we will continue with the show here shortly. The last game of Storm Point, I think, has a lot of expectations, especially for some of the middle of the pack teams. We can kind of solidly call that now. Those, 15 through 10, 11, that sort of region. We see Torrent around there. We see Tripods that's starting to have some games. And most notably, we see that as getting thrown back to the bottom of the leaderboard.
Yeah, Ass really got thrown back, for sure, dude. I have to agree. Those middle of the pack teams, they have a lot to still prove for themselves. Luminosity, I think, is the big standout to me after Enemigo was still trying to run that Bangalore for so long. I really think you gotta abandon it at this point. I think that Enemigo has so much prowess on a lot of other champions that will work just a little bit better here, especially for something like rotations, which is where LG has sort of been struggling. They've always met up against sort of the wrong team at the wrong time when it comes time to actually get into that next round, and I think that Luminosity, they can change that like at the drop of a hat. They just need to commit.
And at this point, looking at the deficit between 3rd place and a lot of those other squads, I mean, we're still really within a stone's throw. We're still within 1.5 really good games for a lot of these squads. So if they're able to adapt, again, they have to adapt at this point because a lot of these successful teams are doing a lot of things right repeatedly, not just out fighting, but also out rotating and out grinding and out resourcing, some of these squads. And all of the squads that seem to be contesting right now are really struggling to make their way out of those rotations. They have so little time to adjust to the fact that they are just in shambles loot-wise. They have to burn resources to win those engages in the first place. Some of those squads might be able to wake up a little bit here if they can get those contests out of the way a little quicker and hit those rotates a little faster.
I mean, that is the tough part of contesting a POI. The second you drop down, there's a solid chance that you may not make it out of that POI alive. There is a solid chance that like half of your games are just not going to happen. Renegades and Elevate both in the bottom 6 on that leaderboard right now because they have had the most quintessential and consistent contesting on Storm Point thus far at this point, and win 6 consecutive games. That's going to start burning a hole in your scoreline. It has already done so for Renegades as they're now second to last, but Elevate, despite the fact that they've been winning these interactions, it's just been too slow and they haven't been able to pick up something on top of that. So the question is, do one of these teams shift gears, go somewhere else, or do one of these teams level up after their POI drop and carry through after not really any contesting team has done that so far?
Yeah, and Los Demonios, another team that is starting to count the bullet holes in every single one of their games, not really making it out, not really being able to play the game. And that's the unfortunate reality of this. And I think that's what's leading to sort of the more clustered, more aggressive mid games that we're seeing right now, is the fact that there's so many squads that are gone that I think a lot of teams are willing to take some of the riskier fights that you would normally not want to take unless you absolutely have to. So we're seeing a little bit of the over aggression, but in game 2, we saw that kind of tune back a little bit, dialed back. We still see some of those team fighting teams like Furia still being very aggressive, but some teams dialed it back. Some teams were able to adapt a little bit and able to adjust and crank it down just a little bit to survive a little bit longer and get into later game spots. Because in a lot of situations, if you have a very good spot in that 4th ring, 5th ring scenario, you can farm up and soak up kills just by being in the right place at the right time. And that is very critical. Squads like Team Liquid and Optic and NRG, who are there very early, they have to pick and choose their engagements very carefully lest they be knocked out when they had a very strong spot to play in the first place.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. These teams that have been holding down just the right spots in these circles, they start out in an advantageous position, but they still have to be insanely proactive when it comes time to act. You still have to try and rack up these KP. You still have to try and out-wrap the rats. You still have to eventually rotate to a circle that will not favor you, because rest assured, that happens for every single team in this lobby, every single game. No one is ever in a perfect position, especially on a map like Storm Point, where despite how well, bunkered in you could be with a building, you could have the Watson fences and the castle wall down on the one stairwell leading to that building. Within the next 60 to 90 seconds, you will have to vacate that premises immediately. And then what happens? What is that next step? That's where a lot of these middle of the pack teams, and even top of the pack teams like Optic, like Team Liquid, like SSG, like even NRG, have yet to find today. They need to get to that next step.
The final round of contests that we will see for Carnage Cup number 4 on Storm Point are coming up here shortly, and this could decide whether these teams get the right amount of momentum, the right amount of early KP and points that they need to have a good game. Number 9 here for the Carnage Cup. Let's see if Ass finally brings it back, because they really need it here. They've lost 2 contested tripods, really turning this storyline on its head. Tripods were the ones that were really suffering from this contest. So let's see if Albralele and crew bringing back Snipe Down from the depths of that retirement. They could definitely look really good here, but they need to take out Nick Mercs first.
Yeah, you can tell that Tripods is just chomping at the bit here. They still have yet to dethrone Ass score-wise. They're still 14 points behind them on the leaderboard, and they want to change not only that, but they want to rack themselves up even more. And so, much like the very end of Storm Point, in fact, on the very 3rd game of Storm Point yesterday, you saw Tripods doing this exact same thing. They were getting more proactive. They were starting to move outside of the buildings that they claimed a lot more quickly. It's going to lead to some earlier fights, and hopefully Tripods is able to get the jump on things. Of course, still waiting on Renegades and Elevate to find their drop spot, as the ship did not favor them this time around. Torrent is actually going to fall first here to Team Liquid, but Furia having a contesting problem of their own here, and Zeratricky actually going to fall. It's Los Demonios that take first blood.
It's actually falling to Zane, so that squad will be eliminating them for the first time, I think, on this contest. And now Furia trying to finish up this contest once again. His Watson dropping Tech, the ringleader of this squad, and Los Demonios falls once again. Furia claims this POI. They claim the 3 KP that seem to be rightfully theirs at this point, but they will have to loot up quickly. Panning back over to the other contest. I think this might be the last contest that we need to see resolved, unless EA and Renegades are continuing their brawl. And Tripod's looking pretty good with the shield situation, but it looks like Gent doesn't even have the cells to shield back up and actually eats up damage, so is now just down to flesh, is getting rated down. Nick Mercs does get dropped from the height of the stairs, and now the flood of Tripods is going to have to recover here. Nick Mercs is down, but Gent is still very well up. Nice shots here from the Eva, but does get traded out immediately, and now it's down to Deeds. Can Deeds pull this one out for Tripods, or will Ass finally be able to play out of this game? Ring 1 is closing, and time is quickly running out.
Oh, what a workaround of this fence, and Albralele doesn't even get a shot out. Gents in the 1v1 wins it out. Welcome to Tripods, my guy. You have absolutely earned it. It is Tripods that will persevere, have all 3 members still up, and win the contest on Synode. Furia, along with Excuse me, that's not Wingman season. This is Furia attempting to deal with... Or no, this isn't Fury. Excuse me. This actually is Wingman season. Sorry, I saw Stunny and my brain, my goblin brain. But who is going to fall early on here? Wingman season, a team that once again has been mildly quiet these first 2 games today. And so we're not entirely sure of how those rotations have been going. And so elevate.
We see Renegade
mercy.
fall
again.
There you go. Renegades 6 feet deep again off this contest. They do lose Presley all the way, but the damage has been done for Stormpoint. Renegades will not see any other part of this map for the rest of Carnage Cup. EA winning out on that KP once again. But this is what we're talking about. Look at their loot. Look at their health situation. Look at their weapon attachments. I mean, they're having to pick up their teammate from death completely, and they're going to have to make this rotation and take a look at where this ring is pulling. We see Esports Arena already there early, so EA has quite a walk, and they might have to run into the likes of Sentinel, NRG. They might even run into 100 Thieves, who is going to be keeping out. And of course, we see there in the top right in purple, Furia is alive and well for game number 3.
Yeah, this pathing is going to be dangerous, but Esports Arena, once again, just proving that they're the most consistent with these god spots, just holding down these buildings. Not even the buildings necessarily, just holding ground whenever necessary. Klain has definitely been one of the all-stars this weekend. Now on this Watson. 100 Thieves able to burn inside the follow-up circle. 6 Scurry and Onmu continuing this same composition. It worked pretty well in the first game of the day, but when do they really get to level up? They haven't found their place in the scoreboard just yet, and they're looking to get another meteoric rise going. Still trying to play out this altitude that they've now sacrificed. This tower, of course, always contested. That's just how Antenna flies. Onmu has this long-winded shots can take with this longbow. Also that skull piercer, of course. Definitely one of the big things we've paid attention to this patch, as it's been sort of kind of rotating through the conversation. Optic, of course, also rotating through the conversation, getting inside the circle again. Their movement has been so on and off throughout this entire weekend, I want to say. Just, we are never sure of what their macro is going to look like until they execute it, and I feel like, to an extent, Optic kind of thinks the same way.
Yeah, I think they might have lacked a little bit of consistency in day one, but now that they're finding better spots, again, they find some of those spots, but they have to win out those 3v3s, and they have to be pretty swift with their decision making, so sometimes that does fall apart. I do want to note that I think it's very interesting that 100 Thieves, which is a team that, you know, is kind of in that middle of the pack, kind of falling down in the leaderboard situation. They've gravitated away from that Watson Newcastle composition that they made look so good at the World Championship. So maybe it's something new that they're trying out, something that they're workshopping that might not be a thing after this tournament, depending on how happy they are with their performance. So, yeah, we'll have to see how they adapt. E8 here, and see, again, they're just scrapping for all of the loot that they can get. The IMCs do give a good bit of loot, though, so maybe after this they'll be a little bit happier. But again, Furia is not far away, at least from where we last saw them on the map. So maybe they're sweating a little bit, understanding that they might not be as safe as they might believe here at the edge of zone.
I think taking your time is the play for most of these teams with this rotation. It is clear that every single person you're going to run into when you're playing in these lobbies is going to be a threat, is going to be a dangerous person to run into. And if you're the one that's moving into the spot that you need to get to, then you know you're in the worst spot. Team Liquid going to set up shop inside this circle, the black market on top of the castle wall. Just making sure they are as kitted as can be and as safe as can be while doing so. While getting ready to move towards these penultimate circles. Round 2 still has a ways to go, though, and so Team Liquid has really no reason to act, as do a lot of these teams. You're going to see a lot of neutrality, I think, in most of the map.
And we've seen this sort of adjustment from Liquid. They're able to go from a very early rotating team here playing out of Cascades and Stormpoint, whereas normally they're rotating out of Trials on World's Edge, so definitely adapting a little bit here. Meanwhile, Sentinels is picking a fight with the one, the only Furia here, and they are falling rapidly into this onslaught. Xenox and Crust both falling already. Zeratricky comfortable enough to pop a Phoenix kit as the rest of this team continues with the flurry of blows, and Sentinels is eliminated once again. Furia finds them and seems to be bullying them throughout this map right now. Another 3 KP in their pocket, and Furia now has control over this edge, potentially taking another fight here on their way in.
But they saw that it was phony, or they didn't see it was phony, but they saw that there was somebody else taking out that final pick onto Sentinels, and so Furia knows that they are still mildly occupied and their rotation has to still be perfect. They have a lot of ground they need to end up covering and a limited amount of pathing in order to do it, but a great engagement from Furia. That extra thermite grenade on the corner was everything they needed to just completely flush out what was left of that Sentinel squad, which really wasn't that much at all. This is the Furia that we've been looking for this entire weekend, just the rushdown death ball dive comp that we've seen them really create as a benchmark for the remainder of the Apex meta. They are continuing to attempt to be the best at it, and so far today, I could comfortably say that they have been. OXG taking second in the previous game, attempting to find their rotation yet again. They have probably been the best campers this entire Carnage Cup, and that takes a whole lot of talent and skill as well. They're going to do the exact same thing here as they take potentially the most optimized position in the entire round 3 circle.
Yeah, they finally find a way in here and actually peeling off of that Newcastle composition with the Watson that they were, I think, not finding the most success on with this map. So, or excuse me, the crypto, I believe. So here we see them with what is kind of starting to become our standard look. A lot of things, a lot of characters that pretty much every team can pretty much rely on pretty consistently. Furia now relying on this insane damage output, but they're run into Optic, who might be one of the only other squads who has an insane 3v3 that they can definitely go to toe to toe with Furia, and Panders just get knocked. They do pick him up. His Watson now trying to answer back, going to look for a grenade here. I'm not sure if that made it over the rock, and these shots aren't quite hitting. His Watson down to just 25 flesh HP, and the engage might be coming through for Optic. Furia might be pinched as well, so they need to make a decision quickly. He does get swung on. His Watson is down. Optic Gaming does lose one in the process. Skittlecake's almost going down as well. Everyone down to flesh for the side of the green wall, but they managed to clean it up. Furia is eliminated by none other than Optic Gaming.
It was a solid stall coming from his Watson along with the rest of Furia, but Optic, they had enough space to work with. They were able to be the decision makers. They controlled that fight the entire time despite being the second players to shoot, and that is what it all came down to. Good altitude control as well coming from Optic, but now they are so worse for wear and have to go for this very long rotation in a very dangerous ring. They are still not out of the woods just yet, as there are still 12 whole squads, including Elevate, whose rotations have been pretty optimal considering how they have not had the greatest luck moving through the rest of this. And so we'll see if Elevate can continue to move through this as they're continuing to guard the edge from time to time. Optic may not be the team to run into them, but we will see. A lot of fights are about to ring out here, Mello. I can feel it.
And there's a good amount of space here for E8 to work with, which is really good for them. They've cleared out their backside, and this is a really great choke to know you have safe, because once you walk out, it's kind of a toss-up whether you might be dealing with a squad behind you, and they're dealing out damage now to the squad in front of them, which I believe was NRG holding just outside of Jurassic. Jurassic has a lot of open area, however, so all of the squads that are rotating in, they're looking at pretty much every angle they might be smacked from. There are so many LOSs that you have to worry about here, so E8 possibly understanding that and possibly finally seeing that the ring isn't necessarily pulling their way, so they will start to move forward, potentially aggressing, looking for this KP.
I think this is great distance play coming from Elevate, just controlling the exact amount of distance and again attempting to clear this board, get a path ready for themselves so that their rotation is as easy as possible. Good shots being taken from Golden at the moment. Oh my goodness, great shots taken from Golden at the moment, but the fight itself hasn't really started, and whoever that E8 is attempting to fight, I believe this might be NRG, if I'm not mistaken, is definitely not done with this yet. Golden's gonna launch this black hole on top of another exhibit, and so Elevate is at least committing for the moment. Good Arc Star to follow up with that, and just a lot of opening damage coming from Elevate, but the fight itself hasn't started. Good movement that they're taking care of. They have a little bit of time left. Less than a minute now before NRG actually has to get them face to face. But Elevate, they're going to continue to try and burn away here, including on that focus of attention towards Nathan and Sweet. Guild still holding down the other end, but Elevate, they still seem to have enough control that they're willing to work with. Presley has to back up for a moment, as does Mercy for the second. And it looks like they're just going to heal up for a moment before re-entering here. But now Optic, they see an opportunity to re-engage, and NRG, they're going to see that as a sign to get the hell out while they still can. But it's only Nathan and Guild that are able to do so as Optic find the greed onto Sweet.
And I wonder if the call was made there. You have to leave your friends behind if you want to survive. Optic Gaming does not want to see anyone live here, though, and Guild will be the only one to escape this fight from Optic Gaming. Not really even a fight, just decided to look at him at the right time in the middle of their fight with E8. And this is the problem with that spot that NRG and E8 were holding. They spent so long there, and they really only had two options. Either you run through the middle of Jurassic and risk all of these teams looking through these gates, just absolutely railing you as you try and make your way through, or the alternative where you just end up having to fold and having to fight it out. Not really a lot of options here, but Optic Gaming executing there fantastically. Get a little bit of information as well, knowing that there's at least one squad that they might have to run into here near the edges, and actually quite a few of them. Look how many squads have decided to take post up in these chokeholds. They're going straight to these buildings, though. They don't want anything to do with that. They managed to make their way in, but will they survive this fight that they might have to engage on now? This building is not big enough for the two of them.
Yeah. Now that the macro's been done by Optic, now comes the part that they have been the best at all weekend. The fighting itself. Can they do so? Skittle and Nox gonna actually head down to this low ground and hide things out. Meanwhile, Guild ratting it out after now both of his teammates have fallen. But he hasn't got much space to work with, and at least one team knows exactly where he is. Meanwhile, Elevate actually engaging in a pretty solid fight against 100 Thieves right now. Presley getting way too close for comfort onto one last member trying to make a runaway. And while Mercy is getting rezzed, Elevate are looking pretty solid this time around. The rotation was clean enough after both NRG and Optic were flushed out by the zone. They played patiently enough to carry through.
They do avoid the wrath of Optic and stave off NRG. Right now, Team Liquid, though, are the ones that are hunting for the kills of their own. They're currently sitting on at least one. G2 is eliminated in the process. So right now, Team Liquid, possibly the last squad holding here near the edge. And I think Nocturnal realizing that, all right, it might be time to switch something a little bit more effective, close range. That charge rifle will not do you any good when you're in building fights. So they're swapping up here. And the last member of, I believe, Wingman Season trying to rat it out. But E8 now with an engage. They're starting to walk up, and they walk up to Optic, who was potentially looking to bully them earlier on. Now the hunters are the hunted. E8 on the engage.
Oh, and the gates can't hold them back for long. Golden and Presley are going to try and find a way in, especially with Presley on this Valk. So many different angles that he can take, and he's going to launch a frag and begin on top of this Thermite. Get this member out of this room. Oh, so much damage getting launched onto this attempted res, but Presley losing all of his shields in the process. This is very precarious. E8 could draw a lot of attention. This is a very loud fight that they're engaging in right now as all the grenades start detonating here, but Elevate, they're bobbing and weaving through these doors so expertly. It looks like they're just about ready to get inside as Esports Arena has also entered the ring. Optic attempting to find this res. Skittlecakes is going to get ganged up on by Esports Arena, and it's Optic that finds themselves in an early grave. Now Elevate finds a different threat in Esports Arena themselves. The attempted third party comes through. Golden getting a good couple shots online, but it's Mercy that takes the front line and falls after trading for two. Golden and Presley have to get this finisher. Mercy might end up sacrificing his life in order to do so, but this house is now under the control of Elevate as soon as they find this final kill, but they might not be able to commit to it fully as Klain still trying to make a runaway, but no! It's Presley that finds the finality, but along the way, E8 will get dropped as well, and it is a kamikaze that finds Elevate more KP than I think they found all weekend. But just like that, G-Force is in a fight of their own. Castle Wall against Castle Wall. Capra trying to rotate out, and he immediately gets punished for it here against Team Liquid. Bronzy trying to drag him back out, but they're against limited space as Capra has made this full 360 rotation, and now Team Liquid has them overwhelmed, but they have to rotate into this circle ASAP, and OXG is managing that sideline.
And OXG finding at least one other fight that they have to deal with if they're going to get away with this. Nocturnal maybe looking at that call and saying, hey, free shots over here right through this doorway. Yes, please. Oxygen finishes off Wingman Season. I believe that might have been a rat. And Oxygen gets control of the building as well. So they may be able to stave off Team Liquid here. But that were so many eliminations all in one go. A straight kill that EA picked up on Optic Gaming was just the start of the end for both them and Esports Arena. All of the aggression has been tuned up to 11. 11. 5 squads left as ring number 5 approaches its close in 1 minute. Who will take the last game of Storm Point? It is really up in the air at this point. Space Station is still alive, and they are running the Bangalore, and they are not the only ones, in fact, as one more Bangalore is showing their phase, and that might be Luminosity. Yes, indeed. And Amigo is starting to walk down.
Yanya!
And Guild is still alive. Yanya gets a fantastic angle here and actually blows up that squad. Doesn't have a lot of ammo left to... Oh, excuse me. Spectator bug there kind of got me, but it does have plenty of angles, plenty of shields. It's going to wait up a little bit, and now the swing comes through. It looks like the better Bangalore might win out here. Space Station eating so much damage from the Mexican squad. There goes dropped. One final member left to try and survive for Space Station Gaming and conserve some of this game, but it is not to be. The Bocek is the final nail in the coffin, and they are taken down.
Yanya, what a beautiful way to finish out that fight. SSG were in such a precarious spot with that rotation. This Valley, the one spot left. But now, LG has to figure out how to rotate through without taking any free fire from it. There's still 3 squads that may be on their tail, including Team Liquid, with a beautiful castle wall drop down to get inside this next circle so quickly, but they still don't have that much cover to be able to work with. Fun, Sykes, and Nocturnal have to hold it down from this lone corner, and Luminosity, they're looking to engage quite early, but Guild, the rat of the century, trying to wait in the wings, but jumping directly into Nocturnal instead, and so Team Liquid will find that kill credit. It's Luminosity, Team Liquid, and I believe there's one more squad as well. But TL looking the best at the moment. They still have this corner locked down on this castle wall. They know Luminosity is still right above them, and they're just waiting for their heads to poke out. This is the fight to pay attention to first. Good mobile shield to just pay some extra attention, but Sykes going for a bit more of a rush down, but losing so much damage for it, and it's OXG that's holding down that sight line and will get the first down onto Sykes. Now Nocturnal and Fun, they have to rotate in first, and the rest of OXG actually looks the best now after Sykes is fully fallen, while Team Liquid and LG engage. OXG can third party from afar from this corner. They will have the longest to rotate in, though. They will be the ones that have to continue to be proactive, but there's so many angles they're able to take until then. If they get this rush down now, it's going to be such an easy final circle. But this far rock that they still have to manage up against, I believe that may be Luminosity, actually. Yanya maybe holding down that other angle. Team Liquid and LG still up and running, but OXG is looking the most powerful at the moment.
And it looks like they might finally be picking up the angles that they need. Niezel trying to survive up in this corner, and Amigo getting angles as well. Team Liquid arguably in the worst position right now, and only a duo up, while Yanya continues to bully whatever little space they have left to work with. So this might be Oxygen's game to win if they can take it away from Yanya and crew. Luminosity does have a lot of the tools that they need. They have the bow check. They have the early damage onto the Team Liquid duo. The members that are left are quickly eating all of this damage, and we might see the end of that squad here soon. Nocturnal goes down to the charge rifle, which, excuse me, still holding on to that charge rifle is a little bit insane, but they did rack up 3 red shields that might spell the end of this game for OXG. Luminosity starts to walk up, starting to take up all of the space that they need, but Team Liquid is still up at least 1 strong. Let's see if they can clutch this up, or will someone steal it away? Luminosity, this is certainly your game to lose.
Luminosity trying to 2 birds, 1 stone it. They're still Team Liquid. They needs to be managed in a good rat spot at that. And now here comes a rolling thunder. But once again, it's not Luminosity's. They have to dodge all these rockets. And Yanya's still going to get concussed along the way. No shields on any of these members. But the rushdown is not going to work from at least Protectful. That's 1 member of OXG gone. And all of a sudden, now it is indeed LG's game to lose. All in full. An equal amount on either end at this point. Enemigo, Yanya, and Niezel having a solid amount of members. Oxygen's gonna fall on that rushdown for the front line. They just have to deal with Team Liquid. It's just Nocturnal to start, and that's gonna do it. Luminosity is going to win their first game of the weekend.
That is a huge pickup for them. They've been hot and cold all weekend, but here they are. And really, they had so much space to work with that game. It would have been difficult to imagine that they would give up that win to either squad. Oxygen actually gets knocked out, taking pressure from both the last member of Team Liquid as well as the Luminosity roster. So ultimately, Team Liquid picks up the points for second place, as well as some of that KP. For those who say Newcastle loses to Bullet, apparently there weren't enough bullets in the magazine for Oxygen to clean up that squad and have a chance against the likes of Luminosity.
It really came down to who was able to manage the rotation on those last circles perfectly, and Luminosity from, honestly, like final 8 was doing it perfect, like picture perfectly. They were able to find SSG on this back foot and be able to take care of them first before rotating back behind Team Liquid. And so not only was Team Liquid congested in their corner, but Oxygen wasn't entirely sure of how much space they had. And before they fully understood that, Enemigo and Yanya, along with the entirety of Luminosity, actually were able to fully rotate, take that entire top half of that circle, and then they could completely circumvent the rest of OXG and Team Liquid. They could have moved in even more if they wanted to, but they didn't. They continued to play patiently. Absolutely beautiful stuff. All three of them members staying up that entire game, and that is going to do it for Storm Point. Mello, we only have 3 games left, and they're going to World's Edge.
Yeah, we get to see now whether the teams are able to ramp it up, keep it up if you're in the lower half, or keep this energy tampered down for the squads that came to play today if you're already near the top. We'll find out after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Welcome back, everyone. We are still live and still rocking through these games for Carnage Cup number 4. My name is Melocrit, joined by Tenrek, and thank you so much for joining us for the second half. The games have been a blast so far, but they are about to get even hotter.
It's crazy watching how these teams have evolved throughout the past weekend. Roster mania, new patch, different changes to weapons. There is so much being thrown at all these players, and yet they have adapted, survived, and conquered throughout it all. But we are coming to a conclusion very soon. The final 3 games of this entire event, the last chances for these teams to rack up these points. Let's take a look at how the leaderboard is doing at the moment. NRG and Team Liquid having some really solid games, but some of these other top performers were faltering in the end, and so it led to an even bigger gap now being taken by NRG that, Mello, I hate to say, but it seems a bit insurmountable.
Yeah, it's narrowed a little bit since the start of day 2, but not by much. Still no other team in the triple-digit club alongside NRG. So if they were sweating before, they can feel a little bit more comfortable now. But even so, there are a lot of teams that, like I said before, they are nipping at their heels. Team Liquid continues to perform so consistently. They haven't quite won a game today, but they've managed to sneak into those top 5 positions and then sometimes really fight their way through those positions. And shout out to Guild. I know Guild has moved teams, but did a lot of work to keep Team Liquid alive there in that final ring against Luminosity Gaming, who otherwise might have absolutely blown up that squad up on that rock. But in any case, Luminosity, really the story of game number 3, that they picked up a 7th place jump right now. So good. Actually tying things up with Oxygen, who's currently in 6th, but that's a full 10 points down from 5th place Optic Gaming. The top 5 is starting to peel away a little bit.
Yeah, I think the race at this point has to be for that 3rd and 2nd spot, because you got to remember, again, the only places in this tournament that end up getting a piece of the prize pool are the top 3 spots, 6,000, 3,000, and 1,000 respectively. And so you got to be racing for that very top spot. Optic, Esports, Arena, who has now actually fallen out of that top 3, definitely in danger. So many of these teams, they still have a good shot at it. Both Luminosity and Optic, as well as Furia, all having massive jumps up the leaderboard thanks to one singular win. If they get one more, who knows how much more they could accomplish.
Yeah, they have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting that they failed to do in day number 1, but in that last game, they were actually eliminated and gate kept from that end ring by Optic, and Optic has been another team that is really starting to wake up, and in the second half, I presume they might continue to do so. They are one of the teams that drops Big Mod, which definitely has the loot that they need to work with and to work the edges of the map. So if they continue to do what they're doing and they continue to do even better, maybe pick up another win here, that is the squad that might vault themselves into a top 3 position and hopefully fight their way for a piece of that $10,000 pie. Again, the top 3 teams are the ones that get their claim to those chunks. So you certainly want to be up there, or at least be very close to there as we approach the end of Carnage Cup. And speaking of, before we get too far into the second half, I do want to shout out one of our sponsors, and that is none other than eBay. eBay has some of the best deals that you can find for all of your gaming equipment needs. You know what you need to win the game? You need the right gear, and so you can find it at eBay up to 50% off and free shipping. So be sure to visit pks.gg/eBay. Again, that is pks.gg/eBay for all of the gaming equipment needs that you might have. But right now, we are about to roll into our 4th game of day 2, our 10th game of the Carnage Cup. We're going to wait a little bit as teams get loaded in, but I want to ask you, Tenrek, of all the squads that we've sort of failed to talk about, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Of all the ones that we've sort of not talked about as much, some of the squads that might be getting knocked down a little bit early on those contests, who do you think is going to wake up here on the second half?
G2. That's probably, I think, one of the, the answers that I think I had waiting immediately for that sort of question. G2, after the contests against Furia have, finally left the building, they have gone their separate ways. G2, unfortunately, hasn't really had their game yet. Their Storm Point performances were really underwhelming. They won the occasional team fight, but I don't think there was a single time today so far where they've broken through the top 10. And I think that needs to change. I think that can change. It is G2 after all. They have the players to be able to do it. They need to take these team fights, and honestly, it might take a little bit of a scummy thinking, quite honestly, because G2's agreement with Furia was, we won't drop here if you don't drop with us. And G2 could very easily ask themselves, well, what if we, do drop with them again? What will happen then? What goes on then? And I'm not I'm not encouraging G2 and Furia to re-spark their beef again or anything. However, I think it's an easy KP if G2 is as consistent as they were yesterday, and I think that may give them a huge booster seat going forward here on World's Edge.
And I think just in general, seeing a bit of a reduction in the contest, at least that's what I believe we're going to see as we get into these World's Edge games. We're going to see slightly higher quality in the mid game. I did have a bit of a complaint, obviously jam-packed action in game number 1, but I think a little bit too much craziness, a little bit too much fighting here and fighting there without really a purpose, rhyme, or reason. And I think World's Edge is kind of the map that tampers that down a little bit as a map inherently, where teams kind of know it a little bit better. They've had a couple more years of experience, at least for some of these teams, in that map scenario. And even with these other squads, even though the rosters have shifted up a little bit, their habits often stay very similar or unfortunately the same, which leads to some squads starting to fall behind as others start to float on up. Another squad that I'm hoping to see a little bit more of, since we saw them pretty much lose every contest in that previous game. Actually, there's 2 squads that are kind of in that situation, and that's going to be AS 100% and Los Demonios. Los Demonios, I actually had a decent amount of expectation for that squad, and I think that they can do well, but if you can't get to the latter half of the early game and survive your drop, it's pretty much impossible for you to do so.
Los Demonios are one of the teams that we've been looking at throughout the scene. They've been one of the most active teams we've seen in North America these past couple months outside of ALGS, and they've really been tearing it up. They have been so consistent when it comes to just kicking butt, taking names, hunting for KP. They are always on it, and unfortunately, like you said, yeah, they're just losing a lot of these really early contests. And yeah, I could say the same about AS against Tripods down in Cenote Caves. They got clapped today, and I don't know if that's going to change. I mean, they will have a different drop than Tripods, but the question is, how will AS's pathing change? They haven't gotten to that second step today, and they need to in order to find those extra points. They were able to make it to top 5 before. Can they do it again?
And now the discussion kind of switched to the squads that are winning their contests but are still not making it to the end game. That can be said for Torrent, who is making it out of their rotation, out of their initial POI, as well as Tripods. I mean, they're surviving, but eventually end up getting farmed or just losing a weird fight or getting caught out of position against another squad. Furia has been doing that with a couple of squads, including Sentinels as well. So a lot of teams getting punished for some sloppy rotations or for taking the wrong fight in the wrong moment. So those squads can definitely do a little bit more damage in the late games, but the hard part is getting there, and they are going to have to make some serious changes. I mean, if it takes a compositional change, we know that before. Torrent used to like to run that crypto as well on Rambo, who unfortunately is not joining us for the Carnage Cup on Torrent, but the variability will also increase a little bit as these teams shift to their World's Edge compositions, a lot of which are very different and accomplish very different things.
There's a lot that's going to change. A lot of these contests are going to change. A lot of these interactions, they are going to change. A lot of these rotations are going to change, and it's interesting. It's very exciting to see. We're no longer going to have, Elevate versus Renegades on that contest anymore. We are no longer going to have G2 and Furia contest each other anymore. We're no longer going to have AS and Tripods contest each other anymore. There are going to be these very new interactions between teams that haven't happened since the 3rd game yesterday, or even not at all if some of these teams have changed where they're going, which some of these teams actually have. And I'm wondering, how many backup plans do these teams have at this stage? Because we've seen it with comps, we've seen it with drop spots. Do we see it with every single aspect of the game? And how late are you willing to make those changes? Because again, this is the last 3 games. This is the point where you start noticing, you start really, deciding who still has a chance, who still has viability in these games to make it up to the top 3. And I gotta say, I don't think every team can make it up here at this point.
Yeah, 3 games left means that the margin for error is now pretty much down to 0 if you're hoping to crack your way into the top 3. And now that we switch maps, that is the opportunity to do it for a lot of these squads. When Stormpoint first came out, people started to make that division, right, between, who are these Stormpoint teams and who are the World's Edge teams. So if we make that distinction a little bit here, once again, taking a look at the results from yesterday, Esports Arena is certainly in the conversation. I mean, winning back-to-back games on day number 1 of Carnage Cup, if they can repeat that here, they might see a little bit of that Stardust, a little bit of that magic, potion that they needed to get through to those top spots that they were holding initially. They fell off a little bit on these Stormpoint games, but they are back on what you might call home ground for these esports arena teams. Can they come back? I think I have a good chance at it. Again, they're changing up their composition most likely. I expect to see them on the crypto once again. Klein pulling that out and managing to do great things with it. World's Edge does kind of suit itself a little bit more to that sort of gameplay. So if they can adjust, if they can bring that back, and if they can fire on all cylinders, you could very well see a lot of huge upsets in the top 3.
And of course, Optic as well. Their rotations through World's Edge were kind of worse for wear, mostly because the circle did not favor them, especially in those first 2 games on the northwestern of the northwestern circles. Both those opening games, really tragic stuff to see. But Optic, their macro was looking a lot better at the beginning of today, and I'm wondering if that will continue when we move into World's Edge. Will Optic's pathing still be optimized, or will they run into the wrong competition at the wrong times? They just were not in the right place when it came down to it, and that is so unlike Optic. We'll see all the changes that commence as here we are, World's Edge, the final map of the Carnage Cup. 3 games dictate who is going to take it all.
Yep, this is one of the final opportunities for any of these teams to just wake up and smell the roses of being on the lower half of the leaderboard. So if you're going to make a change, if you're going to fire it up, it is now. And right now, Team Liquid, one of those squads that certainly has to continue to perform. They've kept it up. They've managed to scrap for points. And I think a lot of coaches and a lot of top players recognize the importance of just playing consistently. Again, if you're averaging 5 to 10 points every game, that is really good. You don't have to win every game. You have to win one in a blue moon when you continue to perform, you know, effectively, and you continue to just grind towards those latter halves. Furia, though, if they want to get to the latter half of this game, they are going to have to kick things off with a win here, and the fists of Fury are coming through in a big way. Luxford already knocked down.
And it's Furia contesting Los Demonios again. That was Luxford that went down at first, but now Tech is going to return fire, and Hakulo as well. All of a sudden, Furia's only 1 member strong. It's his Watson, the only player remaining. Having to rotate around this box in the 1v2 and doesn't have a weapon to keep himself sturdy, and Furia is back down to 20th in the lobby.
And the tides have turned completely for Los Demonios on this contest. That is a big win for them, and they have the res beacon sitting pretty in that POI for them to immediately pick up their teammate and start to figure out their rotation. That is a huge win, and it looks like Los Demonios finally living up to their name. The Demons have taken down Furia, and they will have a game on World's Edge. You'll love to see it, especially with Tech at the forefront of that squad. I think they have a lot of great experience that can lead to very great decision making in the mid and late game. So if Los Demonios can get involved here in some of these fights and in some of these late game plays, we could have a very exciting game on our hands.
Renegades, they see some opponents, but they don't want to contest them just yet. Good shot by Pow Pow to at least open up the board, but nothing actionable just yet. Give it a little bit of time. That'll certainly change. Again, different contests than we saw on Stormpoint, of course, other than Furia versus Los Demonios. But it's not Renegades and Elevate as far as I'm aware. I don't know, maybe that changes here. We'll see if it is the same sort of fight and if Renegades will actually be able to escape the bottom of the pack, unlike what they have been going through these past couple games. But they're in a pretty okay spot. I mean, they have some moving to do, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. Yeah, actually, his Elevate. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Renegades and Elevate are contesting each other yet again, but they are taking a little bit of time.
And now Renegades is on the back foot, having to disengage from this fight. And shout out to Raven, who has really just been at the forefront of telling people that they need to learn how to loot and how to fight in their own POIs. Right now, they might have gotten the right... Some of these squads might have gotten the right kind of coaching, but because it looks like a lot of these fights have turned completely the other way. E8 absolutely running Renegades into the ground with all these contests. And look at the pressure. Look at the positioning. Look at the use of the ultimate that has completely pinned this squad in the corner. Can they do something about it? Here is yet to be determined, but EA does have to make a decision relatively soon. They might have to start worrying about some of the other squads making their rotation onto the side. There we see somewhere near the edge, Nick Merckx and the rest of Tripods might be creeping up here.
Presley, is this rotation going through? But that just means the rest of Elevate has to manage this front line on their own. What a lineup from Mercy. That's one. Already taking here with a problem. That's two. And while Mercy falls along the way, that's all the trading you could ever ask for. It's just you left, and he's going to try and find this greed. He will succeed and down Golden. So it's a 1v1 between Renegades and Elevate yet again. But Renegades is too focused on greeting to notice that Presley has popped back in, and for the 4th game in a row today, Elevate conquers Renegades.
Looking for the thirst there to hopefully get that shield swap in time to get a better position in that 1v1, but it doesn't come through in time. Renegades is wiped from the face of World's Edge, and once again, we will not see them in the latter half of this game. That is absolutely brutal, and that is detrimental to their position in the leaderboard. If they were vying for a potential top spot here in a cut of that prize pool, it is slipping away faster than I think they imagined. And now as we see some of the other squads that are at the top, like NRG, sitting very comfortably in their position, that's looking really rough for their
G2 third-party
gameplay.
D8. G2 third-party D8. That's a big change for G2. That's some good KP. Optic. They've been dropping here the whole time, actually, and the circle finally favors them for once. In fact, 2 circles finally favor them. Oh, how comfortable do you think they have to be at this point? For once, they don't have to move at all just yet, but they might have to soon, as Luminosity is sitting around here, as is Tripods actually already, and OXG far behind. So while Optic does have a good spot, everybody else is starting to get to that good spot.
Yeah, and actually Optic is one of those big mod teams. You saw there that G7 was fully kitted up with the paint, so they were just really recognizing that they need to be here early with that costly composition, being able to put on the pressure early enough for teams like Tripod, who are truly in not the best spot in terms of loot. I mean, 2 grays and a blue, I've said this before, but this tends to be what my loot ticks look like whenever I open them. So yeah, they're gonna have to wait it out a little bit and kind of sit and pray, hoping that some loot comes to them or that they win at least one good fight. NRG here holding the tunnel and maybe looking for some kills, but it's actually Torrent that has found a couple of knocks, and the better half of this fight, they're fighting up against Ass, and 1 member left. Will they be able to clutch it up? That is a purple shield, 53 damage dealt to it though by RKN, and in the end, that is cleaned up completely. Torrent wipes Ass.
Snipe was on minimal flesh there, but Torrent already getting third-partied again here, and so Aiden's revive has to wait. Nice focus of attention, but your knowledge of where people are doesn't really matter when you're just still gonna get overwhelmed, and it's 100 Thieves that finds a third party of their own, and Torrent is out in 16th.
And that is unfortunate. And once again, Torrent is a victim of an untimely fight. They take it, but they take it possibly for too long. It takes a little too long to wipe Ass, and just like that, 100 Thieves get a free bit of KP and a decent situation here in terms of defending it, but not the best situation in terms of their rotation. Again, we know this is pulling hard south. We know this is going hard towards the dome. They do have 6 on the Valkyrie to make that rotation happen, but they're not there early, and Loba isn't exactly the best character for forcing your way into rings. It's not the best character in terms of facilitating those difficult transitions that honestly Geyser is so well known for. So we'll see if they can continue with this game plan, because they are far from ring at the moment.
Meanwhile, look who's not far from this ring whatsoever. These 3 teams already completely stationed in dome, each with their own building. Whoever walks into this farther reach of the circle is going to have their work cut out for them, but Esports Arena, they're one of those teams that don't necessarily have to walk into the right spot just yet. They're comfortable just moving from place to place, declaring whatever spot they occupy as a god spot, and kind of just taking it from there. And it led to the first 2 wins of the entire event, which were here on World's Edge. So they have a lot of promise to show for themselves, especially considering that they got booted out of the top 3 after game number 7. So they have a lot of work still cut out for them to make sure that they can topple down SSG and Team Liquid and stave off a lot of the competition that's been quickly on the rise, like Optic and LG.
And they're playing a spot that, again, for maybe the average player or someone who doesn't frequent the hell pit that is pro play sometimes, look at the way that they're controlling this space. I mean, they are in a great spot to just pressure a lot of teams on the way in. Can you imagine if they were sitting on something like a Vantage here, truly just making everyone feel horrible about their decision making as they walk in? So ESA is controlling a lot of space. They are here early. They're on the outside looking in, but this can certainly work out for them. And I think they understand that they may need to take a fight, or at the very least get the right amount of poke to get those shields up, because they're sitting on 2 blues and a white. That is not end game loot, everyone. That is not enough to take down LG, who currently is sitting on 3 purples and a gold mag on the R3.
Dome is definitely the spot to pay attention to, but inside this circle, you also have Vault, where SSG is attempting to set up shop, but in doing so, they open themselves up to so many different POVs. NRG could end up chasing them down. ESA could start moving in. 100 Thieves, as well as G-Force. So many teams could get inside here, but we'll head over to take a look at G-Force and who currently trying to find their next direction in. They have a little bit of room they have to traverse, but for right now, they can stay put. 100 Thieves looking pretty solid this entire day, but no performance has actually been like a real shining moment for 100 Thieves. They've gotten definitely quite close, especially 6 with that rat in the very first game of today, but 100 Thieves, along with not winning a game just yet, they have not really had a moment where you could declare them as the best team in the lobby, regardless of what team fights they were able to take and or win.
And they have opted for a more aggressive strategy here, so they are adapting a little bit, and they do not have Vaxilon, so maybe they're adjusting just based on how they think they might perform better as this particular 3-stack. And this aggressive composition actually is not too horrible in this spot. I mean, if they can siege a team who's not ready to defend their building, or if they catch someone just rotating around the wrong spots, I mean, that fuse can put down so much damage so quickly. Who needs it, though, when Onmu can beam for 47 with the flatline from across the POI?
You'll absolutely take that every single day of the week. 100 Thieves, they want to take their time, as does every other team at this pace. Again, the competition is getting stiffer and stiffer, and teams are starting to get more and more safe. They want to get those extra placement points. They want what's left of the point pool, because it is getting scarcer and scarcer. And for a lot of these teams, there is still so much more room to make up if they want to get any money out of this weekend. 100 Thieves, they're going to hold this building as long as they possibly can, which will get to be for another round, but outside of that, they will have a long road to trek to be able to get to a safe space.
Speaking of making money this weekend, if you're trying to make some money, be sure to visit Investor. They're one of the best resources to get your money up. One of our sponsors for today.
Nice job, dude.
Great resources for bringing up your money with that investment game. pks.gg/investor. Don't forget it. And right now, Team Liquid is not going to forget Los Demonios anytime soon. Los Demonios, though, does lose one member in Hakulo, and I think there might be a third team involved here. Zednim is actually dropping the damage onto Team Liquid themselves. So Los Demonios might have gotten saved by a timely third party here. I'm not sure if we're watching the right engagement. It's a little quieter than I expect. Look at the teammates that are walking up, though. The opponents are slowly creeping up, and the room is running out near these train tracks.
G2's found NRG from the high ground. Los Demonios, they've avoided this problem for now, but now they're actually going to be able to hunt down what's left of these other squads, as NRG has done most of the work for them. But can they find the kills on top of it? Tech attempting to find some peaks, but now they're going to be one of the targets from that high ground that NRG gets to boast. But again, it's NRG. Or, excuse me, not NRG. There's still another team that has to end up moving. It's G2, excuse me, that has to be the team that moves eventually from here. Los Demonios have a lot of work still cut out for them, but G2, they are looking to take over this lobby after having a solid amount of KP to their name and a great rotation. They're going to take this outer edge and get to Dome the long way, and while that may take a minute, and while they may be running into a whole lot of teams, nobody is really going to want to engage them, because again, second you step outside, you're going to have so many pairs of eyes staring you down.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did get my ankles absolutely smattered thinking that we were looking at the same fight, but that actually happened off screen. And another thing that might have happened off screen here is Los Demonios getting absolutely dismantled. James Fearless with that wingman putting in the work right now, and Tech does not have that handy crypto to recover these banners from afar, so maybe looking to wait out until the ring approaches so they can pick up the banners and have a lengthier and more quality game than they're having right now. But that might not be the case, as that team, it might be banner camping, waiting around, maybe even still looting those banners. But G2 says no, they understand that they have to get into this ring that is already densely populated by a lot of the squads that they have to worry about, that they're going to have to fight out if they want to climb these standings. They're going to hold out a little bit. There's still a decent amount of room, which is a big boon for them in terms of using that Val Cult a little bit later in the game. Ring 3, 18 seconds from being fully closed, and one team on their backside. G2 is going to have to wipe this out here. Chaotic almost going down, but do trade out, and it looks like Zane is going to drop James Fearless, but Bronzy actually answering back. Designful is the one that gets dropped next. Chaotic sitting with no flesh health, but does have the shields up. Nice pump here from Chaotic. Is going to drop Capper with that R301. Well-placed grenade here, but fantastic maneuvering here from Zane. He's going to avoid all of that damage and is now popping down that tactical that's going to continue to lay down damage that is going to put on the stun. Chaotic and Zane are both still up, and they are most likely cleaning up this fight. Here comes the rush. 38 pump there, and G-Force is eliminated.
G-Force just could not touch Zane that entire fight there. Great use of that knockdown shield, and again, great game sense in general coming from G2 as well, but Designful's gonna stay down, and Zane and Chaotic are gonna get third party after this very loud fight preceded them. Black Hole is thrown on a team that is non-existent, and this high ground is only getting contested by one singular member, but G2, great understanding of the fact that Vault was gonna get gatekept and Dome was gonna get gatekept, so instead, you take a seemingly open spot and turn it into your own, much like Esports Arena has been doing on World's Edge. Outside of that, Dropped is gonna find Synox over from SSG here, and Chaotic understanding there's only one team member they have to deal with here in order to fully secure this location, despite the other angles that people have. They are too late for the battery, and so it's gonna be a full breeded 1v1, but Chaotic taking gunfire from afar as well, so it's still third parties before the fight's even done, but Chaotic running it out, so immediately Lou has to back out, but it's not gonna happen, and the one lone member of Sentinels again attempting to scout gets punished.
That is brutal. I think Lou was already on his last legs there to try and survive, trying to stave them off a little bit longer. But G2 will claim that
Crust
KP,
is still ratting.
and they're actually controlling this whole side of the map, so they have at least one rat to deal with here. Crust is still big living, but we have yet to look at any infighting from the squads that are already sitting deep in the zone. Optic Gaming has been here since ring number 1. I believe Tripods might still be up and is still sitting here since ring number 1. So all of these squads are already posted up. And we are already starting to see squads drop onto those silos that can be both a blessing and a curse. If you get good angles, great. If you get angled on or skynated, you can very quickly get blown up. I'm curious to know if that squad has a Newcastle, but currently Optic Gaming pressuring a squad across the way. And yes, you're absolutely right. Luminosity was sitting on triple purples earlier as well. So a lot of squads have taken real estate up here in Dome. Let's see if the likes of G2 and even Esports Arena can fight their way in.
Oh, Crust is gonna get finished off, but it's an Amigo that does the job, so that's an extra KP for Luminosity Gaming, but it looks like G2 is gonna start dropping in on them and try and get this third party on top of things, on top of the Black Hole. Yanya's gonna find the down onto Zane, but Zane is gonna trade things out on Niazzle, so it's a 2v2 for G2 versus Luminosity Gaming. They have to take this natural cover, and they can't find a solid entrance because of this storm, and so they have to find the workaround through the sidelines, but LG, because of these windows, they're not able to get the full reses online, and Chaotic and Designful, they're taking still some solid damage here. Designful taking a big chunk from that nade, and they have to find the time to re-engage the Luminosity. They may have some time to find this res, but no, Chaotic mini up that 1v1 for the most part. Meanwhile, OXG gonna finish off who? G2 still in this little bit of a duel, but they're running low on time. Zane is falling, and so will one more. It's just Chaotic trying to hold down this fort up against Luminosity Gaming, but he's still not inside this building and has no door to be able to get to his teammates or to the rest of LG, and so G2 has to wrap things out for the time being. Chaotic may not even be able to get these reses. He may just have to use these knockdown shields as natural cover to, at the very least, med back up. There's still 8 squads left on this field inside this very tiny dome. So many buildings still attempted to be claimed, and Chaotic Much, he's still gonna try and take this roof instead now thanks to the tactical, but there are now team members chasing him down. Luminosity finally finds the final kill, but Optic is finding a kill of their own onto Tripods, who tried to invade the other building, and that's not gonna work out too well either. Gent and Deeds fall, so it's just Nick Merckx left holding down his own lone building, and no, he's actually gonna wrap things out, and Tripods gets found out by Duplex. Optic holds it down.
Optic has just eliminated a large proportion of the problems that might have ruined their game, but they still have plenty more problems to deal with. Again, that team on the silos will have to move eventually, but they get LOS on OG's walk-up at pretty much at all times here. They can hold this building for long though, and this is the beauty of these buildings, right? If you're there early enough and you have a caustic to hold them, you're a little bit comfortable. You are racking up placement points the entire time, but unfortunately G2 did not make their way in, and Esports Arena now has to deal with oxygen before they can get their walk up, and Space Station Gaming is on the backside of this engagement, griefing the whole time. Dropped walks up, Zen setting up behind this wall that Dropped so graciously put down to continue to grief this fight. Always Senpai finding a knock onto Clean, and Protectful getting actually traded out in the meantime, Eventually, this is going to have to break wide open, and those grenades from drop, that was 3. You can count them again. Look at the damage from the 30-30 repeater. Esports Arena is eliminated, and LG is as well.
Yeah, LG was taken down by Optic as they were trying to contest the last of Dome, so that last building is going to be under the control of Optic, but SSG, they still only have 2 members at the moment, and their rotation, once again, is going to be the longest of all. They could still get punished by another team, maybe the one that actually slayed Luminosity this time around, but this open ground still has to be taken up by a team outside of it, and Drop getting so many pot shots on the final round of OXG, and so is 100 Thieves also gone. It's down to Optic, who has already taken 1, and Space Station Gaming, who has come so close both these days and is trying desperately to hold on to their top 3 spot.
Can Optic Gaming, get 1 game win on each map? We are about to find out. It is a 2v3 situation. A slight shield advantage here for Zen and Drop, but they are going to have to deal with the green wall. So notoriously talented in the straight up 3v3s. They have Skittle Cakes with an ult excel as well, which means they might have this caustic gas on deck. Nice shield swap there, and now they are even Stevens, with the exception of Skittle Cakes, who is an entire man advantage. And here we go. They get the angles that they need. Dropped has already lived up to his name and dropped to the ground. Skittle Cakes will fall, but there are still 2 members strong for Optic Gaming. They will bat up here, and they will clean up this game. Optic Gaming does find a win on a different map here, and they are certainly going to be flying up the leaderboards. What a dub for them.
They never had to leave, Mello. They never had to move from their spot. All they had to do was keep what they were already controlling, and that is exactly what they did. Duplex, Skittle Cakes, and Noct all doing what they do best, which is frag out and win some effing games. Optic Gaming take their 2nd win of the Carnage Cup.
Beautiful stuff. They waited that whole time. They had the resources. They soaked up just enough resources while they waited around as well, and finding the right kills. Honestly, Space Station did so much of the heavy lifting for them at that point. I think they easily contributed to clearing out at least 3 teams on the edge of the map there, which is absolutely wild for the duo. Fantastic job for SSG, who is going to pick up a sizable amount of points. And if I remember correctly, they're sitting pretty well on the leaderboard, so this is also going to be a big game for them. But we will find out exactly where they sit after this short break when we check out the leaderboard and see where our teams stand. 2 games left to go. Don't go anywhere.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Thank you for joining us once again. My name is Melocrit, still joined here by Tenrik and still having a blast enjoying these Apex games. Optic Gaming wins another in day number 2, and right now the leaderboard is really starting to separate. The top of the top continues to climb, and some of the bottom teams are struggling to wake up here in day 2.
Yeah, I gotta take a look at how everything changed. Show me those numbers, because NRG fell really early that time around, and so the gap is different, and there is a new silver medalist, SSG, now up to 89 points and only 25 behind. That is a manageable gap in 2 games, as long as NRG is taken care of quickly. Meanwhile, Optic only 1 point behind Team Liquid. Now, that is magnificent. 1 point separating teams number 2 through 4. That's exactly how you want to see it. And meanwhile, the middle of the pack still have a lot of chances. ESA, 1 win could drive them back up to top 3. OXG, Luminosity, Torrent, G2, Furia, Elevate, 100 Thieves, they all still have a chance, in my opinion, to at the very least crack open and you know, surge ahead in this leaderboard to an extent. But NRG, they are still the big dogs on campus. That performance in day number 1 is still holding strong.
And honestly, to OG's credit, right, Optic Gaming, you can see how rough their first day had to be for them to have won 2 games today and still be scraping up to 4th place, not even taking down Team Liquid right now. So if they continue, and they have so far, we keep saying it, if this, if that, but they are doing exactly what we're ifing at them. Great job from Optic Gaming, and great job from a lot of these squads that are starting to bring it up, that are starting to sort of heat up and find their own esports arena. Again, we talked about them performing slightly better, actually significantly better on World's Edge. They're showing that they can continue to do that. Unfortunately, they did get farmed up a little bit by SSG to a timely third party with that duo. So SSG did a lot of work there and a well-deserved 2nd place finish for the time being. But again, we have a massive 2 games left to go, Tenrik.
And now I think we're warmed up on World's Edge. Again, my mind immediately sort of drifts to the contests on the field. More than anything, Elevate versus Renegades, and more than that, Furia versus Los Demonios. That 4th game today will knock Furia back down that leaderboard even more than they already were. That one misstep, that one false positive that Furia has to endure sets them back so much further from being able to really perform well today. They jumped into the top 10 after their dub, and now they are back outside of it after just 1 lackluster performance. That is how fragile the standings have become outside of that robust top 3 to top 7. But these teams, they are looking to make some waves, and there are 2 games left on World's Edge to do it. There's so much potential, so many different points still left to score, and 2 more games on World's Edge to do it.
And we don't have a whole lot of time left to wait, as we are clear onto this dropship, clear onto game number 5, and clear onto the penultimate game of Carnage Cup number 4. So, of course, checking out the countdown contest, hopefully here, didn't go too hot here for the likes of Furia, and presumably they're going to change up how they did that, because they 50-50'd it about as hard as all my randoms do in my pub games. I don't think that was necessarily the intended purpose, so we'll see if they adapt a little bit here. I think we're already seeing that they're contesting opposite sides, and one of the other contests, of course, that we have to worry about, we just saw there, will also break out momentarily. But yes, indeed, we are on opposite sides of the POI this time, a very different situation, and we're going to watch a little arenas cut out in our otherwise BR-ridden gameplay here from Furia.
We'll also see who the circle favors, because Optic, they got their win, but they also didn't really have to move that much, and a rotation may be warranted this time around. Zera gonna engage pretty early on top of this focus of attention towards the 1 low member of Los Demonios that they're able to see, but can they actually complete on the kill with a nice frag to ward it out? That's a great flush coming from Zera to at least take care of 1, and we'll see how Furia can move on from that. Another FOA, but this time from the Los Demonios side, but there's just too many angles that are being taken up by Furia at this point. 1 enemy to go, trying to take pot shots from this window, but White Shields, 3 members they're up against. This is a win for Furia.
That is an absolute wipe coming out from Furia. Just looked one-sided the whole time. Caught out of position on that low ground. Made it so easy for Furia to find that initial knock that so often turns the tides and really establishes the result of these early fights. So right now we see LG is actually chilling right now. Very far south. Optic already schmoving. And Optic actually getting 3 POIs to themselves. That's ridiculous. But currently we get to check out Torrent, who just gets 1 POI and 1 fight that they have to win to rotate on out of here. Big damage coming out from RKN, and they eliminate Oxygen from Geyser. Torrent has a game on their hands.
This is a big step. OXG, one of the benchmarks, the gatekeepers for this leaderboard in Torrent, after a really solid day one, underperformed on Storm Point today. They still have a chance to break back through here on World's Edge. We'll see if they can do so, but that is a great squad wipe to kick things off, and it's a nice way to get to Vault.
Yeah, absolutely. So they have priority over this entire tunnel now, though, of course, Geyser priority isn't the sexiest thing in the game of Apex Legends on World's Edge, but they will at least get to play the game out a little bit and checking out where the ring is pulling. We see that at the very least it contains Harvester, where Nick Merckx and crew are currently rotating on through. Most likely have that beacon information as well. Tripods is starting to move, and it looks like it's pulling even harder over towards the west side here. That is going to be a very interesting ring pull. A lot of those northern squads are going to have a very rough time as they try to make their way through that landslide tunnel and a lot of the other tunnels that might be gate kept by teams like, you know, on NRG, who does actually drop very close to the POI that Tripod is approaching right now. It'll be interesting to see how those teams make it through.
Still on 18. No other team fights happening just yet, but who getting some solid shots from afar. Great sword. A lot of damage getting pumped in, and that's going to be the go sign for who has yet to win more than, I want to say, like 2 team fights today so far. They have not had a great go at it, but this is looking really solid for them. They're able to get a whole lot of damage, but not the team just yet. They will get the finisher on a Capra, though, and that is a good start.
And Renegades did actually live out the rest of this game, or at least the actual drop part of their game.
E8 and RNG are both up.
So RNG might be playing it out a little bit, but GeForce might have to play the rest of this game as a duo if they cannot pick up Capra's banner. They're going to try and open up some damage here to stave away the enemies, but they are well within ring, or at least very close to it. So they don't need to leave those boxes. They're going to force GeForce here to play as a duo, and E8 might even make that a worse situation as a solo. The knock onto Bronzy. E8 takes their building, and they might be taking their lives as well. Bronzy is fully thirsted. 1 member left for GeForce and no spot left to play.
What a great convergence there. Here's G2 rotating over to Luminosity and already getting a good amount of info to start things off. Designful going to take the first couple shots and miss nearly all of them, but that's enough wingman damage to at the very least force LG out, and they've already been kind of dispersed. They have to come back together before they'll be able to take this fight properly, and inside this exhibit it's going to be a hot minute, but G2 gets exhibited themselves, but LG hopping down to this low ground. G2 is going to be able to free fire away, and LG, they're too split to do anything outside of just hope that they don't get taken away. At least the majority of them don't, but yeah, I guess that does come true as G2, they will settle for just 1 kill for the moment. They're still trying to get this path locked down, but not entirely sure if they'll be able to find even 1 more member of LG, as I know that 1 more went the other direction at the very least, which is where LG looks to be headed back to, but that's a great extra KP to tack onto your scoreboard.
And they get control of this crafter, which is very relevant. Seeing where this ring is pulling, they get to work this edge a little bit longer, get to clear out even more teams away from their rotates and away from their backside, so that they really just get a lot of free loot and a lot of free space to figure out how they want to play the rest of this game. So big ups for G2, who is most likely going to craft here, going to get up some shield baths, get those attachments that they might need if they're missing them. That is actually a big win for G2 outside of just the KP, but I think LG is still roaming, might be looking to pick up that banner and playing out the rest of this game. So they're still alive and they might look for revenge later, but Furia are the ones that find their fight next, and they catch a team with their pants down on the crafter. That might be NRG. I don't want to speak too soon, but the engage is on.
Bubble out early on, but they have to leave it as soon as it's down. Already so much damage done early on this high ground, and
oh, it's a caustic.
Yeah, it's a caustic actually, and oh, that gold body shield is helping them out a whole lot. But Pander's engaging on that high ground, gonna try and go toe to toe, but there's too much high ground that Furia has to manage in order to actually fully take this fight. At the very least, they've taken away Replicator as well as a lot of low ground for them, but now Furia has to dive back out because it looks like they're getting third-partied a little bit.
Yeah, they have to play this patiently here. They can't just go too crazy, even though they found a lot of that entry damage.
G2 found Yanya.
This spot is so difficult to play out of. We get to check out in the kill feed that LG does indeed lose another. But Fury right now does not want to lose this fight, and they don't want to lose the opportunity to get this KP, but it might literally be flying away from them right now. They're going to try and keep poking it out, but Furia has won this space on landslide, and they will get a crafter of their own, as well as free bats. Thank you for the free print. We'll take the gift. first and kill you with it later. That might be what we might see from Furia, but they control this edge for now, and whatever squad ended up running away is probably kicking rocks right now, thinking,
they're trying to fire back right now. Yeah.
So much loot. That is just so unfortunate.
It's like I kicked my little brother out of my room and he comes back in, but he's poking his hand through the door and he's like, I'm not in your room. I'm not in your room. I promise I'm not in your room. Go tell mom I'm not in your room. Esports Arena locking down their own territory. This is just classic ESA at this point. Fury and Phonyhead, of course, the staples currently having Clane back on the squad. He absolutely demolished yesterday. We'll see if he can do so again today. Back on this crypto now that we're back on World's Edge. And Mello, I know you're a big fan of that. I think you're converting me as well, because that drone has been such a liability when it comes to final circles.
And thank you for showing us the ring, because I was curious to know where NRG opted to post up, since they were the first team here on this ring that we almost certainly will see now is ending right on their POI. So they've opted for a little bit of that western side tunnel work. And right now, Wingman Season is opting for a fight to clear out some... Oh no, that just fell apart so quick. What is going on? I didn't even expect that engage there, and the hipfire is just way too free. E8 is eliminated by Wingman Season, and I really just got a little choked up there. That was kind of a throw.
Yeah, I guess it was a little worse for wear from the jump, but Stunny kind of W-keyed. He had the space to, I suppose, and was able to get enough damage through to finish off Elevate. We absolutely take those, and Renegades is going to look in that kill feed and said, oh yeah, I will absolutely take that to the moon and back, as they are still in this lobby. The question is, will they be able to find any points on top of it? Meanwhile, so many teams, there is no in-between at the moment. They're either in this POI that they dropped to, or they're in the circle. There kind of is no in-between there, but Ass is also going to fall pretty early yet again at the hands of G2. They are just on the hunt right now, on this prowl. They understand that time and games are limited at this stage, and so you need to just farm some KP if you're this behind. And frankly, G2, they are still quite behind, currently in 9th place with that 54 points going into this game, but that gap is smaller than you'd think. One singular win could drive them up the leaderboard super duper fast, especially if they find the right opponents.
And a team that is certainly extending that gap right now and honestly posturing to win another game if they can make it happen is NRG. They're controlling the spot that actually has LOS and pressure on a lot of these rotations. We see where Optic is. They could opt to go far west, but that's already populated by Renegades. So that won't be a rotation option really unless they straight up take this 3v3. And honestly, NRG is going to know that, and they're going to be able to potentially execute a third party, or at the very least punish a late rotation. So this could break out into a lot of fighting here momentarily, though. Talking about the quality of games, I know I complained about this before, but we're seeing 15 squads alive as Ring 2 comes to a close, so a little bit better, but that does mean it is a lot more crowded and the LOS is all the more brutal.
We've definitely seen a lot more teams enter, final circles as time has gone on. It's great watching teams start to play safer and safer and understand, the stakes that these games are on as time goes on. Team Liquid have a lot of space for themselves, but they're playing edge because of it, and so all they can really do is try and monitor, but they are known to do that quite well. They are known to be able to take space quite well and consistently, even though they're still running with a new third in Sykes. They are doing A-okay for themselves. Zero Tricky is going to find another pick, this time onto James of GeForce. Looks like Furia again attempting to divide and conquer their picks. Probably for the best, considering how far behind they also are on the leaderboard and how little time they also have to make up the gap on it. Another Skyward dive pretty early on to ward off a lot of TL, but look at this, so many different pathways of gunfire being launched to them, all the trajectories under the sun, but they will manage to get away, and TL will have to play the long game.
And they've shifted to this composition that we saw a little bit of before. They were playing the Newcastle on Stormpoint, but they have now shifted over to putting fun FPS on that fuse, which can just honestly deal an ungodly amount of damage, often an unfair amount of damage if you're stuck in a building against 3 or 4 nades from fuse. Fear right now has at least one team trapped in this corner, and like a rat in the cage, Furia might be the ones that pounce. Indeed, the last member of G4 might be falling here soon. Actually, there's multiple team members here, and Watson eating a lot more damage than I think they were expecting. Actually pops down the ultimate here to make sure that they have perfect information should that team choose to engage. And you can see there, they're watching their backside a little bit. It's actually Wingman Season who's dealing so much damage, and they are forced to disengage. In the meantime, Sentinels is eliminated, but Wingman Season might be looking to eliminate a squad of their own. And Furia, nice grenades here to put on the pressure, but Stunny is found out, has a lot of angles. kills. The Eva is not enough to get the knock, and Panders finds the first one onto Stunny. There are still 3 members up as Wingman is eliminated from the competition and eliminated from Game 5.
What a recovery from Furia. They had the better spot, but they were forced out for a second after that exhibit came through. The seer pressure is just so dominant, but Furia understanding that if they U-turn, eventually the resources will be expended, and indeed, they were able to eventually still just overrun the competition thanks to having that better spot, but now they have to migrate very quickly in order to get to a better spot against the remainder of these teams, as so many of these teams also are. Space Station and 100 Thieves moving in tune with each other under these tracks. NRG having to take the long road eventually, but they are inside this upcoming circle and have a lot of space to call their own with a lot of natural cover also supporting them. A lot of chokes that they don't have to worry about because either other teams will get to them first or because teams can't even traverse through them. We are getting to a point, Mellow Crit, where all of these teams are making minimal mistakes, and so it's not about punishment, it's more just about who decides to play better.
And NRG right now, just with the terrain alone, are inadvertently actually connecting with, or is controlling, excuse me, almost a third of what's left of this ring. You see that big landmass with potentially Renegades to the left, I want to say, an Optic to the right. So they might end up sandwiched between a couple of squads here soon, or they might end up playing out. We'll see what they decide. Tripod is the team holding out this edge building, while Furia actually getting griefed a little bit, but RKN is not able to get the knock, and Panders is still alive. This man continues to live in situations where they certainly should not be. Does eventually fall though, and that's going to be the bow from Fury that's going to take them down. They're going to try to punch them into zone to get this res. Heads up play here, and they do have the gold knockdown to get the extra healing should they be able to pick them up, but they can't quite yet, and they're being pressured. 1 rock left to play for Furia. No grenades flying their way just yet. And LG has fully recovered and is playing this roof that is right on top of Nick Merckx and the rest of that squad. It looks like Furia might be able to stabilize here, but LG is not going to let that happen for free.
Torrent's still on the trail back as well, and I think that's who Luminosity is actually trying to chase down. They gotta watch themselves, because if one lone team spots them, then there's gonna be 4 teams on their trail, and LG's actually gonna walk directly into the entirety of Furia. Might get punished for it as Niazo is the only one remaining, but there's too many members to count, and so Luminosity and Furia will end up actually eliminating each other, and we are down to 10.
A stray grenade from Jen actually just puts the nail in both of those squadrons' coffins, so now they're walking up to loot this up for free. Tripods on 2 blues,
and Fury's still shooting,
are about to just absolutely inject their situation with so much loot, so much weaponry, red shields most likely, if I remember correctly, from the side of Furia, and they're still taking damage, but they are still feeling great about the free KP as well as the loot. Meanwhile, Aiden is going to try and rat this out, but they might have already been found out by a squad that's in front of them. They are in a sandwich right now. What will they be able to do? They do have the Horizon, which is quite slippery, but I don't imagine they're going to live all that much longer. They are on the wrong side of this POI.
Oh, he's already been found out by the other side as well. There's no way that Aiden's going to be able to rotate for free. In fact, no team will be able to rotate for free at this stage. Everybody's got eyes on everyone, it seems. I mean, it's not just because there's so many seers on the battlefield. There is a lot of open space that some of these teams have to manage. NRG, though, a classic sweet taking this high ground. No Kraber this time around, but still has that G7 to try and work with, while Guild and Nathan attempt to hold down the fort that they've been holding down this entire time. A lot of space that NRG has control over, and actually not too much contesting, but that may change as here comes a skyward dive.
And I think that might be Optic. We'll see how big the bodies are as they come down, and they're actually dropping scattered all around NRG. So that team is forced to drop already, or at least one member is Sweet eating a little bit of damage, but is going to find a little bit of cover just with the high ground alone. NRG controlling so much space right now. It is so absurd, and really not much that the other squads can do about it. They risk too many resources and just too much of their healing if they want to try and take down NRG, but Sweet has fully dropped. We see a caustic barrel, so I may have been correct. That might in fact be Optic. A nice 87 damage already opening up for Sweet. They are starting to rain down on this squad. They haven't quite found a knock, but they found a lot of the damage that they need. And if they can clear out this squad, they could very well have themselves a very nice end game.
This is really big. If NRG is able to take this game, then they might be able to just come away with it regardless of the results of game number 8. This is beautiful stuff. Aiden ratting out for Torrent. He was actually able to make it through after all of the chaos, and he's still in this top 10. Torrent has a lot of KP to brag about as well, and so good amount of points they'll be able to bring to the table come leaderboard pre-final game. NRG They have to pack themselves in soon because these team fights, they are going to be unavoidable at some point. Their main focus has been to survive, but now they have to conquer. Can they do it? Sweet and Nathan both trying to hold up. Actually, no, Sweet is actually all the way on the other end. It's Nathan and Gil that are holding up this high ground.
And Duplex gets knocked in the kill feed. I'm really curious to know what's going on with that fight. I think they might have dropped themselves down a little bit later, and they are also being pressured right now by a Team Liquid. Skittle Cakes is going to drop, so Optic might have put themselves in a very terrible spot to play out the rest of this game. And a lot of sightlines, 128 from Nathan. That G7 is nasty right now. Free shots all over. They are going to clean up Skittle Cakes, and it looks like TL might be somewhere on their backside. We haven't quite figured that out. And yes, indeed, they are playing that bridge spot. So they were the ones that Valk ulted over from Thermal a little bit earlier and found a spot to play. So charge rifle in hand, Fun FPS and crew are going to continue to sneak their way into this ring, and they are clear from the rage that is NRG. So they will be able to play a little bit more comfortably and continue to pressure teams, including whatever poor squadron has found themselves ratting underneath the other side of the bridge. Big damage coming down. Nocturnal draws on Moon. That's actually 100 Thieves that's falling.
100 Thieves taking the brunt of that damage. NRG, they don't have any information. They can't do anything about this fight, but they can take the stragglers of whoever is outside of it. That's not their main focus, though, but they will be happy with whatever damage they can end up taking. Aiden is actually going to jump in on the fun here and find a little bit of a kill credit to his name. But NRG are the team with all the control in the world, despite the top 6 situation, despite the open space, despite this being last circle. NRG, they are looking as good as ever, and as the team already in first place, to take this last game would be not only legendary, but definitely seal the deal for them as the winner of the Carnage Cup. It would be absolutely magnificent.
No.
Sweet! Are you kidding me right now? Phony goes down with a masterful G7 track.
Phony
not again!
Around it. The other teammate on Esports Arena does make it through, but not without paying a hefty tax to G7 from Sweet. That was big damage, but nothing really to be seen in terms of pushing right now. 6 squads left in this final ring and just over 10 seconds left for it to close. Quite a few spots are actually playable in this scenario. NRG definitely holding one of the better ones, but Team Liquid is down below them, and I think those pings might be recognizing that fact. NRG might have to commit to something to clear out that team, because when both teams wait out, I want to say Team Liquid can hold just a second longer, and you see there Nathan is already teasing at that black hole and how they might use it, but it's going to be critical that the timing is perfect, and there will be no crypto ult as it is busted. That crypto drone falls and Sweet drops clean on the way out.
The rest of NRG have to find these shots soon. They're going to have to drop down eventually. They still have a lot of time to work with, and ESA is going to get finished. 5 squads remaining, and Team Liquid is still below NRG this entire time, rocking that Fuse Maggie as well, something we've yet to see this entire day.
And Nick Merck's squad is still alive, baby.
Oh, yeah. So is Aiden and YU. So RNG and Torrent both have their rats, but YU falls soon after. 1 rat remaining, and then there's Tripods, Team Liquid, and NRG. That is your final 4. Tripods holding the lowest ground of all, but also potentially holding the most powerful spot of all when everybody has to drop. And so for it, Deeds is going to castle wall early on. NRG, the natural cover, starting to deplete as this final circle begins to close. They will have to drop down eventually, but they're going to find all the damage that they can along the way, and Aiden finally gets taken care of at the hands of Sykes this time. Team Liquid finding more and more kill credits as time goes on. Tripods and Team Liquid both evading sight from NRG for the moment. Eventually, everybody's going to have to drop down, and it is going to be a fustercluck downstairs with these final 9 players.
A 3v3v3. We have a Newcastle in the equation. We have a Fuse in the equation. Who's it going to be? And that is very clever usage of the Mad Maggie tactical. It's just actually going to force NRG off very early here. They do have plenty of shields to work with, but they are down on the ground. Sweet is down. Nathan is down. Guild is the last member standing. We're seeing a classic standoff with the Valkyries. Who is going to win it out? Will it be NRG that clutches it up? And no, Tripods does take it down. The M-Fam is here to play, and they take down game number 5 of day 2 of the Carnage Cup.
That was some great patience coming from NRG to end things out, but eventually, Tripod's low ground investment paid off. Team Liquid and NRG were both on limited resources before they had to drop down, and so they had to end up using even more resources to get there. And so by the time they did, Tripods had them outgunned at that stage. It was a big gamble taken, but Tripods, they absolutely punished them for it. A great way to cap off game number 8, but NRG, they did still make it quite a ways and may have just gone the distance to give them the title for Carnage Cup. We're not sure until we find out on the leaderboard after the short break that we're going to take in just a moment.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Welcome, everybody. We are down to the final game of Carnage Cup number 4, where we just witnessed a crazy final ring between a 3v3v3 with some of the top squads that are joining us in the field today. I am still Melocrit. This is still Tenric, but this is not the same leaderboard, though. The top of it might be looking pretty darn similar right now.
Yeah, I think we have our contenders super cemented at this point. Let's take a look at this leaderboard going into the final game of the Carnage Cup. NRG, with their placement and solid KP in that game, I think has fully cemented themselves. I doubt that anyone's really going to make it that far. And so the rest of this is really just a battle for the podium, which is between a solid 5 or 6 teams at this stage. Beyond that, Tripod's really solid jump up to 11th place thanks to their win there. Furia now back in the top 10 after a really okay game at this point. ESA back in the top 5 after also a really good game. Their pot shots were amazing and their distance play was superb. Luminosity, their survivability throughout that, despite G2 hunting them down, was really great. I mean, this top 10 is looking really good to me, Mello. And I think that, again, like I said, there's a good 6 or 7 teams that could make it to second and or third and change how this prize pool is allocated. And look, I'm gonna be real, I don't think that NRG is gonna get dethroned, but we don't crown a winner until the 12th game is done.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. It's not over till it is over. And TL is one of the teams that is certainly sweating for this to be over sooner than later because they are very close to losing that spot. I mean, 7 points is not an easy feat, and squads have fallen short most certainly on a lot of these games, but Space Station Gaming has shown that they have what it takes to have those big games. They have had a monumental climb up this leaderboard, and of course we see 90 from Optic Gaming, who most certainly is able to win. I mean, they've done it once and once again, so why not a third time to clean it up? But shout outs to the M-Fam, shout outs to Nick Merckx, who did take down game number 5. Even though they haven't had the most amazing tournament, they did give us a look at what that squad can do when they're in those end ring situations, and honestly making the Newcastle look pretty decent. Although at the end of the day, NRG's living potential there is crazy. Guild with that patience, able to hold behind those knock shields. So good, man. Just a lot of fantastic survivability on display.
That's what we're all here for, isn't it? Is some good Apex. Let's put on a show one last time. Game number 12 of Carnage Cup. One final chance to rack up these points. NRG, the king, who will be their subjects?
And realistically, NRG would have to be contested on drop by Liquid here and allow Liquid to drop like a 30 bomb game. So
yeah, they need a 17 bomb to tie and win the game, even if NRG places bottom 5.
Yeah, so
there are so many things have to go right.
Looking pretty good for NRG, for Sweet and the boys. Great stuff, and great to see that roster already having so much success after having switched so recently. Guild already coming into their own with that team and doing a solid job of exactly what he was brought on to do: deal damage and survive. And honestly, other team members like Panders who are on the rollers seem to be some of the slipperiest in terms of surviving. So great stuff from them. And yeah, here we get to see if they can survive out this engagement. One final contest that Furia has to deal with, one final opportunity for them to have a big game. They are definitely on the outside looking in terms of being near that top 3. But, you know, just for the ego, just for the disrespect, can they win out one more contest?
Wow, Pander's getting away with that scout to check out Los Demonios, and they're actually going to engage here to begin, getting a little bit of a better trade, but the rest of the squad isn't there just yet. Zero going to be the next to hop in, and actually, no, his Watson, what a stunning rush down, and there's the first kill, but Zera's getting traded out. Los Demonios, they still have a lot of space. They've been able to cover a frag grenade to flush out Panders for the time being, but the rest of Los Demonios is going to get taken care of by his Watson alone. I mean, this kid is just so good sometimes.
Absolutely brutal stuff here. And another contest that we might be witnessing here is Elevate. E8 has won out on most of these contests with Renegades. It looks like they sort of cut their losses last time. I'm not sure if that will happen again here. However, the final game does mean that the ego starts to show just a little bit. You're not going to win the tournament. You're not going to get a cut of that prize pool. So might as well leave some bodies on the floor on your way out. Renegade bodies would certainly feel pretty good underneath the feet of E8. Let's see if they can do it again, or will they finally fold to Madness and crew?
We'll find out as Renegades, they have the view from the roof. Presley holding down one door, but up against 2 members of Renegades, he's got to get the hell out of there. Presley already melted down. It's going to be a 2v3. Renegades rush down from the bottom of the steps. Palpalf with one, Euban with the other. But Golden trades back out, so it's a 2v1. Golden shielding back up, not too much health to work with. Slowly backing away to try and res one, but Renegades are not going to afford him that luxury. Already on Scraps, going to shield swap. to be able to get that little bit of extra health, but you can see Renegades, they're already rotating. They're now 3 members strong again. They have all the space in the world, and E8 just has nothing at all. Golden, no shields back again. Cheeky little rotation, but it's not gonna fool you, but an Elevate is 19th.
And Renegades finally wins one, actually having to drop down an ultimate though, because that took far too long and the third party came in hot. And this might be Luminosity, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they just put it down to be safe. Yes, indeed. Luminosity is now showing up to claim a piece of this KP pie. And Amigo dropped down to Flesh, and a lot of damage coming from Yanya, who is sitting on the purple shields. This door is held down, but that means that Luminosity Gaming can flood the top side. They're actually going to clear down this door. They don't want anything to do with these shenanigans. And look at the hip fire and the shots from Yanya, but actually does go down first. And LG now a little bit on the back foot, but Nyazzle doing plenty of damage, and they haven't cleaned this fight up quite yet. They are now down to just an Amigo who needs to clean this up. Look at the HP. That is a fraction of a pixel. And they clean up another RNG with 6 KP to start.
Madness! Madness does it by the skin of his teeth on, I want to say literally 1 health. I want to say that was pixels away, holding down against those knockdown shields, and Renegades finds their second squad wipe after Luminosity were just a little too slow to the punch. Some solid bluffs coming from Yanya, but they just couldn't get their approach right, and Renegades had no real reason to exit the way that Luminosity wanted them to. That is a quick 6 KP going the way of RNG.
And a quick 6 teams rotating down to the second ring. Look at the way ESA, Optic, NRG, so many people already taking up space and eating damage for it. That's actually Gent that's going to be eating that as well. So Nick's Mercs team is getting absolutely bullied, pinched, sandwich in every direction. Tripods is eliminated, and they are out of the game so early after a huge performance in the previous game. That is really unfortunate, but that is just how the cookie crumbles when you rotate early and you're up against the likes of NRG and Optic Gaming. Sometimes you will fall.
Oxygen is out as well. They will not make your top 3. Torrent able to find those eliminations. Optic was taking a little bit of fire, and they're not exactly in the best spot. In fact, they changed their POI, it seems. Or actually, no, they just got to circle. Never mind. And wow, what a spot they're in, actually. They're in the follow-up circle as well. It's almost imperceptible considering how perfect of a spot it is. I mean, this is a good setup from them. Same with Space Station, though, as they are walled in as always. They want to stay alive. They want to prioritize it. They want to stay on this podium because Optic is only 1 point behind them going into this game. One little thing could change the entirety of how much from this prize pool you're able to get. Wingman Season attempting to chase a wanton squad down. Retzi finding a couple shots with this Wingman, but the rest of Wingman Season is not here yet, and so they can't fully commit. But neither can this squad that Retzi is taking shots on, just because of how stocked up he is. And also because Wingman Season is the team that has the choke down. The team that they're trying to fire away against will eventually have to find their way back into circle. And so they will choke themselves back into the open space, sacrificing themselves to be able to maybe channel themselves through. But in doing so, they sacrifice themselves in the process. Retzi attempting to make his way back after taking some extra shots because Wingman Season does not want to fall prey to the same thing that they are forcing the team they are fighting against to fall prey to. And I think they'll take this. I think they'll accept the fact that their spacing is not perfect because that circle is still favoring that open space again. They may not get this rotation back, but at the very least they have this territory, and that's something to be happy about.
Absolutely. They've pressured this squad off. They continue to exert that pressure. They have not quite left yet. So that other squad cannot get too comfortable here, because if there is a big knock or they're left out of position, that could be Wingman Season just flooding your building looking for kills. And that is sort of how it tends to go with some of these tournaments where it is cumulative points. Some of these squads that are a little down bad in terms of points are just looking for a good time, are looking for a good fight, or just a good breakout performance to at least clean up their tournament on a solid note. So Wingman Season right now doing it in the way of a keep out, and Torrent, another squad that has been, again, a little bit hot, a little bit cold. They've shown us some really great performances, some good fighting. They've won a fight here, and Aiden the Destroyer was actually our kill leader for a large chunk of the previous game, so they know how to fight. But if they can fight out of at least one more decent position, they could have an even better game than we've seen so far from Torrent.
They've got to drop an atomic bomb on top of a win, though, in order to make it to this top 3. And you can say the same about so many teams. Say what you will about Team Liquid, Space Station, and Optic. They have a good wall set up for themselves. The distance between 4th and 5th place going into this game, 13 points strong. And that is a big deal. Furia and Team Liquid, two of the teams really vying for supremacy in this lobby. Fun gonna fall first. And Furia, while they have this high ground, they don't necessarily have everything else to their name. And meanwhile, G2 is gonna take care of Esports Arena. And so there go their chances of being in the top 3. That is a massive toppler. Team Liquid still firing away at Furia, finding a lot of solid angles, but Panders and Watson, they are still attempting to find all the damage they can and doing an okay job so far. Watson going for one of his classic dives, gonna launch an exhibit on top of things to make sure that any tracking on these remaining members of Team Liquid on this low ground are as easy as possible to manage, but in doing so, he has sacrificed a little more high ground, so it comes down to Panders to provide as much cover fire as he can, and so far, he's not doing the best job at it.
His Watson does get this full heal off and is sitting on top of, I believe, their knocked teammates. So if they can continue to pressure Team Liquid off of this height, we have at least one member of that team on the low ground still. And that reposition might have been the thing that takes down Furia as Zeratricky actually falls again. That is, you hate to see it, really. When you finally get a res off, you work for it. You put all of your resources to walk up and get them picked up just for them to fall once again. And now Team Liquid has taken an even more aggressive position, and they are showing that it has a lot of potential as his Watson almost gets knocked completely and is going to have to full heal once again. The Mad Maggie tactical slowly burns Panders away from the spot that they were holding. Zeratricky will get thirsted, and I'm not sure if Team Liquid got up their own third, but this might just be a straight up 2v2 situation, and Team Liquid needs this to go their way if they want to hold that top spot. They have recovered the banner at the very least, so they're going to look for that stick out on the north side over towards these geyser buildings, but that was looking a little sketchier for TL than they would have liked.
Definitely scary for a time being. Panders holding that high ground for such a long time, super important. And meanwhile, Optic, another team trying to hold on to their spot at the top and trying to actually break through to the top 3 since they're only 1 point behind it at the moment. But Duplex has fallen. They do have the ability to maybe recover him, but it's going to take a hot minute to do so as they have to worry about everybody else around them. As will finally get finished off here by actually Renegades, in fact, who is still on a rampage throughout this. But Furia has found some opponents of their own to deal with as they're going to go up against G-Force. But Sentinel still trying to figure out the rest of this as Aiden for Torrent. Once again, the last remaining member, Lou, trying to find him out. Always pushing this front line, has been consistently getting punished for it, but may not work this time as the rest of Torrent has actually been waiting this entire time to jump in. Aiden gets dropped along the way, though. Crushed an opening shot with his wingman, and the rest of Sentinels can recover for the time being. But no, the backline has already been invaded by, I believe this is Reeds, but oh my goodness, what a PK shot from Crust, and Torrent is gone.
And Sentinels finally finds one here. Big blast from that PK for 101 to the mouth. That is a horrible way to go out. Torrent unfortunately eliminated and will have no more opportunities to show what they can do. And Sentinels finally gets their chance to maybe show that themselves. They've been lacking in terms of late game presence. They are down to the 11 squad range, so maybe they can play a late game here. Maybe they can show us what they can truly do, but they are still not going to get this for free.
This circle rotation is getting crazy. So many teams still up. I love seeing just increasingly heavy final circle. Still 11 teams up, but so much distance play, and Furia gets punished for it. That's another big downer for these squads. You got to search for the right ones to take out. There's going to be a little bit of targeting involved. Even though you have minimal information, you know for a fact these teams, they have a designated person watching kill feeds. They have a designated person tracking who is picking what and planning to fight teams accordingly. Wingman season stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's just Zednim left, but is getting fired at on all cylinders. G2 about to pick up another 3 KP. They're going to greed Retzi, and now they're going to chase this last kill down unless they actually get contested from the backside, which is what happens to Zane. Then the Maggie tech to flush out the rest of G2 will work out, and now it's Team Liquid tracking down more of G2. So many different rats, but Designful will fall as well at the hands of Zednim this time, so Wingman season gets a little bit of revenge, and Team Liquid all of a sudden controls all of this space.
Team Liquid taking down multiple squads, pressuring a lot of this space, and that means that they can get all of the loot that they needed after picking up Fun. So they are pretty much in the same state, if not even better now than they were previously. They have 2 kills to their name on Nocturnal alone, no other assists, so that might be the only ones that they've picked up so far, but they continue to pressure, and they have now taken down Wingman Season as well, and G2 is eliminated in the process, it looks like, through a third party. So now TL gets almost 2 teams worth of loot on their way to this late game, and this third ring is about to close. 15 seconds left. TL will get to reap the benefits of all of this fighting on their way in.
At this point, it's down to the top 4. NRG, Team Liquid, Space Station Gaming, and Optic Gaming, all still alive. They are the teams to pay attention to see who ends up taking the podium. NRG, they basically have first place locked, but it is a battle, a fight for second and third. Team Liquid enter this game at 98, SSG at 91, and Optic at 90. Whoever falls next could very well change the entirety of how this forms. If Optic falls, then that's probably going to be it, and your top 3 will be absolutely cemented. But if Skittle and Noct continue to survive as they have been doing, play this edge as they are so good at doing, then they could prevail over one of these other teams. Noct taking a couple shots with this car, but is going to get punished for it aptly, as one often does when taking pot shots from his position this precarious. And Optic, their rotation really is not completely predictable just yet. They have a lot of space that they can go to, but it's all too open to really warrant going to until the very last second. Granted, they do have a lot of time as this next circle hasn't even begun to reveal itself yet, and so Optic, they can hold down this vantage for a while, wait out a little more of this game, maybe farm some extra placement points.
And yeah, it is really difficult when you're there so early. So many squads rotate into your space, and if you can't hold out or you don't have the resources to do it, we saw them rotate there with 3 blues back when Nick Merckx and the rest of their squad were actually sitting in that building that I believe SSG has now taken residence in. It can be really difficult, even with the Caustic, and Caustic even weaker when you don't have a solid building to defend. Dropped continues to poke, and that's got to be one of the most tilting things in this game, unless you land 0 shots in that spray. But in either case, getting tap, tap, tap by that G7 feels terrible, and getting knocked down by NRG feels even worse. They're the ones that walk up onto Optic. I think a stream member might have just gotten caught out of position, and the Caustic is the last member left alive. Guild gets a big hip spray to start opening up this and oh my goodness, yeah, Optic Gaming is out. NRG just continues to cement themselves near the top.
Now it's between Team Liquid and Space Station Gaming to see who's going to get second and who's going to get third. Space Station, they have to rack up so much KP at this point if they want to play catch up. That 7-point gap is monumental when it comes down to the final circle in the final game. And Team Liquid, they are still controlling so much of this space. It also comes down to the control of so many of these other teams trying to rack up this extra KP for some glory and maybe a couple clips to post on Twitter later on, including Sentinels, who has some of the best aiming clips we've seen so far this entire event. Can they complete, find their first win, or even some extra kills? We'll see as they have this high ground on lock. They have to rotate pretty soon as there's just 10 seconds left going towards this round 4 circle. SSG, though, in the best position imaginable. All these gates, all these floors, this entire building in the round 4 circle entirely theirs.
They can't be too comfortable, however. We have seen this siege get busted and broken down, and Team Liquid, one of the squads that might have the right composition to do it with the Mad Maggie and the Fuse, can absolutely grief. As we all know, Newcastle loses to Bullet. So if they are able to somehow take down this generator or siege this building, it could be a very different situation. But TL continues to pressure the edge of this map. Look at the hip fire. G-Force is eliminated. Sykes finds another, and Team Liquid continues to collect this KP, but they do fall to another Fuse on the map. I'm not sure who that was.
It's Hunter Thieves.
But Sykes is actually in a horrible position right now to get recovered and actually sneaking back just in time. Actually, not as far out as I thought, and the Fuse ultimate is going to continue to pressure this squad as they try and rotate. They're just going to have to walk on over this. I think they're just within the ring and just within their right to pick up this res. If they're able to do it, that could be huge, but 100 Thieves is not going to let this go for free, and here come the grenades. Here comes the pressure. None of those are actually hitting, though, and this cover seems to be just enough for Team Liquid to defend.
They're able to work with this, and Sykes is actually going to be able to fully get healed up. Team Liquid somehow, some way, they can recover from this, but it's still a precarious spot, and just about everybody knows where they are at this stage. But some other teams, they're preoccupied with these other fights, and Team Liquid, all they're focused on is go, and rotating back into this circle. Sentinels now worse for wear thanks to their fight up against Renegades, but they're going to try and complete at this stage, and they will be able to take care of things. Is Crust the only player remaining, still trying to finish off this fight, and will finish off Yubin as well as Madness. Sentinels, they stay alive here in the top 5. NRG, though, with the third party. Here they come, flying from the shelves off the top of the ground. A lot of health, a lot of damage done. Hiding behind this knockdown shield is Lou. There's one more, and Sentinels will fall soon after. There's just one rat remaining. Who else can it be but Crust? But NRG, they may have sacrificed a little bit of a position, but any KP is good KP in their books, considering how far ahead they are.
And it looks like NRG might be hunting for that W cherry on top of what will almost inevitably now be their tournament win. NRG controls this height as well, and there's very little cover left to play. SSG is going to have to move, so as good as their defensive positioning and their composition is, they're going to have to walk up out into the open. They likely have that Newcastle ultimate to work with, but NRG is not going to let them in without taxing them with plenty of damage first. And right now, Nocturnal, Sykes, and Fun FPS, the Team Liquid roster, are holding strong near these zip lines. Guild actually just pushing up, looking for the angles to try and get some damage for free, and Sweet is going to join in on this party. They are getting pushed, and that seems a little bit unnecessary here, but they are looking for kills. They're done with this tournament. They just want to see more teams fall.
Team Liquid still stuck under this terrace. They're actually in a really bad spot. NRG, they're able to find Nocturnal to start things out, and Guild's int actually worked out for the better. NRG takes down Team Liquid. SSG has a chance of grabbing second place now that Team Liquid is fallen, but they have to ward off 100 Thieves first, and Frex will kick it off pretty well with a pick onto Scurry. But can they carry through as NRG attempts to outlast this last fight? Team Liquid is gonna down Nathan here, and NRG trying to chase down the remainder of 100 Thieves. It is NRG versus Space Station Gaming here in the final 2. Space Station from a distance. This is a big circle they still have to work with, but a long-winded rotation will give Space Station a little more wall. But NRG, they have this high ground. Guild can still take some shots, get this extra damage done. SSG, they have to take extra time, and they will have to rotate just a little bit more here. Dropped attempting to take this front line. He doesn't have his castle wall ready. That is crucial to SSG trying to hold down any spot that gets opened up, which will be soon as this circle closes in. But NRG, their position isn't exactly anything to write home about either. Both these teams, so worse for wear, so tired at this stage. But what's keeping them going is knowing that they will get at least a chunk of this prize pool. But SSG, the KP on top of the win, would probably grant them second place and an extra bit of cash in their pocket, and so they will absolutely not give in just yet. Trying to farm from afar, force these bats more than they have to. Zen, though, taking a brunt of punishment. Frexen dropped, holding closer. Another attack from Valkyrie, forcing Zen to bat up again.
And this could actually just be terrible for SSG if they're not careful here. Because look at their setup. They do have the Watson gen, but NRG has a lot of high ground to work with. And as the zone closes, look at the way they're looking. Look at the way the arrows are pointing. NRG actually gets to play this for just a little while longer. Going to clear this Watson fence. Can NRG put a neat W bow on top of their incredible tournament performance thus far? They're going to start to walk up with this Newcastle with the shield. Guild has no shields left, however, and neither does Sweet. So they're going to have to try and walk up here and do what they can. Some miracle damage has to come out from the NRG squad to take this win, but it will not be the case. And Space Station Gamings are your final winners of Carnage Cup number 4. They take down the last game of World's Edge and the 6th game of day 2.
They finally did it, Mellocrit. They won a game here in the Carnage Cup, and it's going to boost them up to second place. What a masterful display. That slow-winded rotation ended up working out, although I gotta say, if NRG had all 3 of their team members, that might have been a very different story. We know what a good portion of our scoreboard is going to look like. We're tallying the final numbers now, but my, what a game 12 to round out the Carnage Cup.
Yeah, and NRG was actually just the winner in more ways than one, but they were also the ones that ended up ruining TL in more ways than one at the end of the game. They might have been the ones that actually knocked TL down one rung, which means slightly less prize money, letting SSG climb up a little bit, get a huge win, a win that they certainly needed for their confidence as well as for jumping to potentially that second spot. I'm not sure if it's quite gotten there, but what a game from SSG. They controlled that building so early on. They controlled it for so long. They had pretty much an unsiegeable composition there. No one was going to mess with that. It's possible, right? But if you see that, if you see the Watson fences, if you see the Newcastle wall, the last thing you're thinking is, oh, we should probably go there.
Oh man, I think that that last map was such a great benchmark for how this Carnage Cup kind of ended up. Just this podium completely shaking up to round out the very end of it. It was clear what the best teams over the course of this weekend were when it all came down to game number 12, and then they all got to duke it out in the very final circle. That's exactly the kind of thing that you love to see here. But what else do you love to see? Some money in your pocket, and while NRG is undeniably the champion of Carnage Cup, the question remains, what do the rest of the tallies hold in store for these squads? Who takes second? Who takes third? Who takes the bottom 10? Who made these gigantic jumps even though these wins kind of may have set them back? It is Team Liquid and SSG that are tied for second place with 108 points. Oh, who could have seen that coming?
NRG tries to play spoiler on TL, but it is not the case. Team Liquid holds strong, and I believe with the first tiebreaker that we have on our scoreboards, Team Liquid just holds on, but still fantastic job for Space Station Gaming. They break the 3-digit club alongside with Team Liquid. Optic Gaming did their absolute best, but just were not able to survive long enough and pick up a dub. And Esports Arena, quite a gap here between 4th and 5th place, but still a fantastic performance from these top 5 teams. And again, you just have to shout out NRG and how well they played this weekend, especially in a meta that is still developing, where people are still cooking up new strategies, where new rosters are still being solidified. Keep in mind, NRG and Team Liquid both did this with brand new players on their respective teams right now. So that is already a feat in and of its own.
It's true. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Guild is fitting right into the NRG roster. Now, they are your Carnage Cup 4 champions. Very well played to them. And Mellowcrit, as much as it sucks to say, that is the conclusion of the Carnage Cup.
Yeah, that will be the end of it from us. Thank you so much for joining me, Tenric. Thank you to Knights for putting on this fantastic show for everyone watching. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, it's been a blast. I cannot wait to see how this meta develops, how these players develop, and how these teams continue to improve as we wait patiently for this ALGS Year 3 announcement. But that's going to be it from us. So thank y'all for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.